Hey everybody, welcome to the Sunday show with me, Matt Dillahunty, and my very wonderful friend who's getting ready to release her awesomeness book, Promise. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm much better now. I get to hang out with you, so it'll be a good day. I was just taking a terrible selfie and posting it everywhere to get people to call in today because I'm hoping we can. I'm feeling hopeful, which I probably shouldn't say that out loud, but I'm feeling hopeful that we're gonna have some really great conversations today with theists.
I am too, and I'm in a pretty good mood, all things considered, and looking forward to stuff. I do want to talk about a little bit about what's been happening. This is a live call-in show. If you're calling in, by all means, we're looking for theists, and theists will always have priority to talk about what they believe and why they think we should believe it as well. And we just really want your honest reasons and your honest discussion. If we think they're terrible reasons, if we find them fallacious, if we're unconvinced, all that's easy just to say and address, and it's there. But something is awesome has transpired over the last weekend. I want to spend a couple minutes while we're queuing up calls talking about that. The Line Network is not a nonprofit organization. It is a for-profit endeavor. And we concluded last night a one-day fundraiser that, to be fair, actually raised a bunch of funds before that one day went live. So we'll call it over the last week. We raised $115,000 for recovering from religion.
Yay!
Now,
Amazing.
the first people to thank for all that is every one of you who donated, who participated, even if you didn't donate financially, if you shared the links, if you contacted your family and friends, if you spoke about what RFR has done for you, if you participated in these silly little games and stuff that we did, if, there were plenty of good-sized donors, but a lot of the times it's a bunch of people in here doing $1, $2, and $5 donations and kind of a spam fest. It gets everybody pumped up and gets them participating. And I want to say that, while Daryl was very kind to thank me for the work that I've done with and for recovering from religion over the years, and everybody thanks Arden because Arden's the bomb. The reality is that while Jimmy and Arden have worked together kind of jointly over the last few of these fundraisers, Jimmy did the overwhelming lion's share of thankless work on this fundraiser over the last week. I wasn't involved. I showed up and talked because that's the lazy guy I am. But my understanding from Arden is that they planned some stuff together, but he did the bulk of the planning, the scheduling. He came up with all or most of the games and activities and the questions that encouraged us to, have fun and answer silly things or engage. Jovan did as well when we did Jovan's wonderful new show that I have fun with that he changed the name of to Ratioed. Jimmy had to also host while other people were scrambling on a piece of paper to come up with something funny in response to whatever he said. And he had to do that while he was one of those people as well. And doing work behind the scenes while the rest of us got to sit around to talk and have fun and raise money for a good cause. It is an often thankless job. And I know Jimmy doesn't like to be thanked, which is why we do the, F you, Jimmy type stuff all the time. There are also a ton of people here, fans and participants, not people actively working with the line, who weren't able to donate, and that's fine. It's rough times. I've seen the price of gas. Have you seen the Dow? But they helped massively by participating, by calling in, by sharing what RFR had done for them. It's absolutely amazing. And for those who don't know, the line, as a for-profit network, has a model that is basically built on the lefty, socialist, commie, whatever, profit sharing model where all the content creators and the producers share in the profits made based on the revenue we each generate. We also pay our call screeners a fixed amount for the hours that they screen. That was a primary goal that Jimmy and I both shared when he asked me to come over and join the line. We wanted to make sure that while we were forced, like virtually everybody else who's starting stuff up, to rely on volunteers, that we fixed that as quickly as possible. And for a while now, we've been actually paying call screeners. They're in there actively working right now to help us find the best calls. And these people are dedicated, wonderful. I was going to say volunteers, but they're not just volunteers. They're here because they love this stuff, and they are good at what they do. And yet, despite that, not every call goes well. Don't fault the call screeners for that. Fault me. Fault whoever's hosting. Fault the internet. Fault the anonymity. Fault whatever. It's just the way it's going to be. You can't fight a lot of this stuff. I've learned over the years. There are some fights that, even though I have a neuroses, I would say probably about, I'm not good with a lack of closure, and that can absolutely rile me up. And I've had to come to grips with a lot of it better, and. And so last night we finished up raising over $115,000 for recovering from religion. We didn't raise this for ourselves. As a matter of fact, every single show and every hour we spent on this raising money for them is an hour that we didn't earn any money for our profit sharing. And so while I'm incredibly grateful to everybody who participated and very proud of RFR, any of you who are able to donate and contribute and super chat and all that stuff, you can start back up now, because I got rent to pay and healthcare to pay and all that, and I like to eat and all that. I really like to eat, but we're so proud of everybody who worked and participated, and we're so grateful for the wonderful audience and dare I say community, if not family, that we built here at the line. There's no reason for us to ever do a fundraiser for us. We're here to do a mission, and you guys support it, and we're going to do it better than anybody and everybody else. That's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah,
Promise.
I second all of that. That was really, really well said. And I have to say, just to repeat what you were saying at the beginning, Jimmy does so much more than any of us will ever realize. I constantly, because we're friends, so we'll also just be chatting, and I'll be like, "Oh, what are you up to?" And I hear like he's handling this and this and this, and on top of just like the regular thing with the line, and then we've got the fundraiser and all, and he shows up and does what we all do. I couldn't do all of that. It would drive me absolutely insane. I literally wouldn't be able to. So, which is why you see all of us really enjoying our jobs in the line, because Jimmy's making it a great place to do this work. So thank you to Jimmy. Thank you to you guys for showing up. It's so cool to just see all the donors in the comments, and now it's become a fun thing. I've done, what is it, like 4 or 5 of these in a row, and it's like something I look forward to every year. I think it's a fun thing.
Speaking of doing things in a row, Promise and I are your hosts for today. And we're getting ready to take a call here in just a minute. Promise, I'm going to let you take over call-in studio if you're good with that, and I will revert to
I'll do my
supportive
best.
role. But when I say doing it back to back, it's because Promise and I will both be back here again next week. So if there's a conversation that's like cut short or whatever due to time, you'll be able to call back in next week. You can call into throughout the week on the other shows. There'll be a Sunday show after dark tonight. Monday evenings is Skeptalk at 6 p.m. Central. Tuesday is Chewed Gum at 6 p.m. Central. Wednesday is The Hang Up, my show, at 6 p.m. Central. And Thursday at 2 p.m. Central is the Transatlantic Call-In Show. All of those shows are here, in addition to bonus and extra shows, and we're constantly adding new stuff, including the Devangelicals, which I believe is still Saturdays. Is that still when we're doing Devangelicals?
I believe so.
I will take that as a yes from Arden, because she's busy working. You ready to take this first theist caller?
I think so. It's fascinating based on what I'm reading here. This could be I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Let's talk to Danny. Danny, you are live on the Sunday show with Matt and Promise. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing okay. How are you doing, Matt and Promise?
Doing all right. So, you believe in a God. Do you mind sharing which God or what God you believe in?
Well, I believe in the God of the Bible, the Father of Jesus Christ, which I do believe him and Jesus Christ are one. They are both God.
Okay, and why do you believe that this God exists?
Because, well, the Bible says so. And not only that, it does have commandment laws in it that are laws that we actually live by in this world. We do live by them. And
So Danny, there are other books that also say that their God exists and say different things that some humans follow. So you know, which is true, the Bible or other religious texts that claim other gods are real?
what do you mean?
So you're saying that you believe a God exists because the Bible says so. But there are other
Yeah,
books
okay,
that
yeah.
say that there are other books that say that other gods exist. So which book do we listen to and why?
The one that is the true Holy Bible, because
How do
it
you
is
know that it's
saying,
true, Danny?
because it says that this God is the creator of the universe, the creator of mankind, and also cares about every single one of us. Where if you go with Allah or you go with Balaam or something, that's not said. It doesn't say.
So,
It says
but
that they
Danny,
care about this people
Danny,
and
I'm
they're
afraid
these
I'm
people.
afraid you're not answering my question because my question isn't like why do you like the Bible or things like that. It's how do we know that it's true? How do I know that it's not Satan lying and trying to get me to worship the wrong God? How do I know that the Bible isn't just completely false and there's no God at all? How do I know? How do you know that the Bible is true?
That the Bible is true, because how can we exist without there being an eternal God?
Well,
That's not
even
answering my question about the Bible.
even if your
Well,
question,
I think that answers most
even if
of it.
the, even if the implication of your question were accurate, um, even if we required an eternal God to exist, that wouldn't mean it's the God you're talking about in your Bible.
Well, then what God does it mean?
I don't think that we
You
require
can
any
say
God.
all you want.
I have no evidence or reason to think that there is any God, but the Bible is demonstrably false in a number of different ways. Like you talked about how the Bible talks about God being the creator of everything, but it misunderstands things and gets the order of creation wrong. Which came first, Danny, the earth or the sun?
That would be something that I really don't know.
Well, how do you think we could find out? Do you think the best way to find out would be to go read the Bible or to look into the science?
I would say the Bible, because the Bible seems like it tells us that the earth existed first, and God said, "Let there be light." And where do we get light?
I agree. I agree with you that the Bible says the earth came first, but science says that that's the opposite of the truth, that the sun came before the earth. So if the science says that the sun came first and the science has mountains of evidence, why would you believe the Bible, which doesn't have evidence to support its claim?
I don't see how it doesn't. I really think this is kind of irrelevant, because there's a whole lot of things
You
that
think it's
could
irrelevant
you
whether or
could
not the Bible's correct and can demonstrate it?
that I could believe that. Well, wait, say that again.
Well, you think it's irrelevant to discuss whether the Bible is correct and whether that can be demonstrated.
Yeah,
No, that
Danny, you
isn't what
called
I
and
said.
I asked you why you believe that a God exists. You said because of the Bible, and I asked how do we figure out if the Bible is true or not? And Matt is trying to help you see that there are already some things in the Bible we can point to based off of reality are not true at all. So for myself and for Matt, we look at that, we see, wow, the Bible is already screwing up and not matching reality. Why should we believe you that it's telling the truth about anything else?
That was not the only thing that I told you, though.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, I told
if
you
that's
everything.
wrong, Danny, I know it's not the only thing you told us, but if that's factually wrong, How could the God of the Bible get it factually wrong? How does the Bible get the order of creation wrong, the order of events of the origins of the universe wrong, whether or not rabbits chew the cud? Why does God have a number of different things in the Bible that are immoral, that are factually incorrect? With all of those things there, how could you still say it's true?
Because of sin. And this is something you probably even know better than I do, Matt, because you were going to be an ordained minister. But the thing is that I could say things that you are not going into. And the truth of the matter is, when the Bible started speaking, it started off as a perfect world. But once sin entered
Prove
it,
that.
all
No,
these
prove
bad
it was
things
perfect.
that you can read about. Hey, can I finish?
Danny,
I
no,
can I
Danny.
finish?
No,
No,
you
you're
can't finish.
preaching.
I'm literally,
About.
Danny, I'm literally
You're
interrupting
both.
you. So why would you ask if you can finish? I had a
I muted him.
question, which is, how do you know that the world started off perfect?
You're unmuted now.
Because I'm muted.
No, you're
You are
unmuted
unmuted.
now.
How do you know the world
Oh,
started
I'm
off perfect?
unmuted. I didn't even know I was muted, but whatever.
I know.
The simple fact is, okay, never mind that I said that, but we do have right and wrong. We do have
No.
Hey,
I'm
Danny,
not
can
going
you
to
tell
never
me
mind, Danny.
what
I
did
need you to
Matt
answer
just
my
ask
question.
you?
You know, I heard when people talk to you and they give you some bogus answer, it's the same
Danny,
thing over
what
and over.
did
You let
Danny?
them talk
Danny,
Yes.
what did
longer than you let me talk.
Danny, what did Matt ask you? This is not a show where you get to call in and preach. We can just end the call if you want. I'm
We're
trying
just
to give you
trying
a
to-
chance.
I don't think I'm preaching. He
Okay,
asked me,
all Promise and
how
I
do I know that the
are
world
trying to
was
do,
ever
Danny,
perfect?
is
I
Danny,
tried to
would you
answer
stop and
you.
listen for a second? Please listen. All Promise and I are trying to do is get you to explain why you believe certain things, why you believe certain things are justified. And every time you make a statement that we don't accept and you try to use it as foundation, when you say, oh, the reason for this is because when the Bible was spoken, which, okay, I'll just let that slide, the world was perfect. And so I need to pause right there and say, how do you know that the world was perfect? Because you've now made a claim. I need you to be able to defend it. It's not our fault if you don't or can't defend your claim, but we're not going to let you ignore it and move on. If you want to just say, I don't know how I know it was perfect, and then go on to your next point, fine. But that means you've conceded the point. I'm not going to sit here and let you make 18 points that you never defend. So how do you know the world is perfect?
I defended it.
Danny, what is the question that Matt just asked you?
Okay, this is what he asked me. How do I know that the world was ever perfect? He asked me that. Am I wrong?
That's correct. Now can you answer
correct.
it?
What's your answer?
I was going to answer it, and that's when you interrupted me.
Well, a second ago, you said
That's
you
why
did
I
answer
said-
it, and now you're saying you were going to answer it. So were you lying then or are you lying now? Let's just skip past that and ignore the
No.
fact that at one of those
Just
points you lied.
answer it.
Just answer the question. How do you know the world was perfect?
I've already heard your lies. So far, you have lied to me.
Okay.
And
Danny,
so
I'm going to mute you, and you're going to listen very, very, very fucking carefully, Danny, because I'm in a good mood and I'm bending over backwards to give you every opportunity. So when I unmute you in a minute, you're muted right now. When I unmute you, please don't whine. Please don't pretend that you're being treated unjustly. You are making claims and you are expected to defend them. If you cannot or will not do that, we'll move on to somebody else. But I'd like to give you the chance. So when I unmute you in just a second, I just need you to tell me, how do you know that the world is perfect? Don't tell me you already did it. Don't tell me you're going to do it. Don't tell me how you were interrupted when you were trying to do it. Just answer the fucking question and we can move on from there. That's how this goes. So here we go. I'm going to unmute you. Tell me how you know the world's perfect.
okay. How am I supposed to answer the question now? We've gone through so many things. I've been interrupted a lot.
Okay, clearly you don't
Danny.
understand basic instructions. I'm clearly not the person to have a conversation with you because I'm not going to allow myself to get baited into repeatedly calling you out. I literally said, "Don't you dare whine, just answer the question." And when you came back, you know what you said? "How do I answer the question?" That's not my problem, that's your problem. If you were going to answer it before, just do it now. I don't need a preamble. I don't need a complaint. I don't need you to pretend like you're the poor little victim here. You called in to defend your beliefs. We're asking you about them. You're either capable of engaging in a conversation like an adult where you answer a question, or you are not. We're getting ready to find out which of those two is absolutely true. I'm going to unmute you. I'm going to mute myself so that you only have to deal with promise, so that you're not ganged up on, so that the big bad mean guy that interrupts you isn't being a dick. All you have to do to get this conversation to continue when we unmute you is say, "Promise, I know the world was perfect because," and then give your answer. That's it. Here you go.
Okay. Promise, I know the world was perfect because we know that there is such thing as good and evil. And how did that wind up happening? Well, because somebody disobeyed somebody.
So
They
Danny, I
didn't
have
do
to
what was
disagree with you already. I'm interrupting you for a reason. It's to help your
Yeah, I
conversation
know.
because you've asserted something that I don't agree with. So I don't believe that good and evil exists or ever has. I don't think these things exist as entities or as anything like that. I think that there are mostly neutral things. And I think we use labels, we use words like good or bad or evil to describe different things. But I don't think that good and evil exists. So I can't agree with you already because we asked you, okay, how do you know the world was perfect? And you said, because we know good and evil exists. And that is not an answer to the question. It's okay if you don't have an answer to it. We can move on to another, if you have another point as to why you believe this God exists. But so far, I remain very unconvinced that the world was ever perfect.
Yeah, and I guess I just got to go with that. The simple fact is this is a bogus conversation, and that's the way it is. So I'll just leave you alone,
Danny,
okay?
Danny, I'm gonna point something out real quick, and then sure, you can, or you can hang up. I'll point it out for the audience then. Danny used the word bogus in his description when he called in, something about atheist responses are bogus. So Danny was not honest from moment one. He did not call in good faith. He did not call to have a good conversation with us. He called assuming that we were going to give what he calls a bogus answer. And then he just used that at the end to say that gave him a bogus call or whatever he just said. So that was apparently never going to go well. And that wasn't because myself or Matt didn't try to give him a chance. The questions were just not answered, which is not a good sign for how this episode is going for theists. But maybe we have some other ones in here. Any thoughts before we move on to the next call?
No, I'm glad you brought that up because the people can't see the call screener thing. And so he called in, and his core point was you can't convince atheists of anything because atheists are bogus. And I guess under his definition of bogus, that it is bogus to ask people to defend the claims they make. And when you have someone, and sorry, I am going to be a dick right now, when you have someone like Danny, who doesn't understand the basics of arguments and evidence and justification, I wish we could find a way to teach, because I'm pretty sure that Promise and I could have come up with examples until the cows came home, as Promise tried to do immediately, which is, hey, there's plenty of other books. You're pointing to your book. There's plenty of other books that people think are justifications for a God. Why are you picking this book over the other one? And if you listen to the type of things that he was saying, he's like, oh, we know the world was perfect because we know what good and evil is. Well, not only is that fallacious and absolutely ridiculous, we don't know necessarily anything so much about good and evil, but we also, even if we know good and evil in any sense, that doesn't mean that the world was ever perfect. And he continued, because I actually listened, Danny, he continued by noting that, and we know that that's because somebody disobeyed somebody. No, we don't. We have you are assuming the Bible. You are assuming that man's sin, according to the Bible, brought death into the world, and that when they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is patently absurd that there's a garden with a magical fruit that teaches you. But also, it's absurd to think that they were punished for something that they could not have known was wrong until after they did it, because they didn't know good from evil. So even within the story, Danny is incorrect in how we know things. We don't know that the world was perfect. We don't know that there was someone who disobeyed God. That's just the story he accepts. But even if you accept the story, we supposedly know morality, good and evil, because God has written it on our heart. And then the question would be, how do you know that's true? How do you know that's true? And this is a perfect time where I wish we'd had Apologia here to play his jingle, because Paul's response, and if he's watching, he's probably sitting there going, yep, this is one more for the Bible tells me so. Danny is someone who was taught a religion, I would say indoctrinated, and was never taught how to question or challenge it, or that it could even be reasonably questioned or challenged. He doesn't know how to defend his positions, which is why he just complains when anybody tries to make him. And that's why Promise is right to say, you're not just going to come on here and preach. Well, I don't think I was coming on here to preach. You absolutely were.
That's what you were
Preaching
doing.
is a one-directional communication that doesn't offer a defense to state a position. That's preaching.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first thing he said was, well, the Bible says so. So it's just circular logic.
That's
which
where
we tried to coax him out of it. He wouldn't do it.
I think the next time and Danny's not alone. There's a lot of people like Danny. It's one of the reasons why we support Recovering from Religion. It's one of the reasons why we have a lot of different people on these shows with various expertise. I wish we could find a way, and maybe, I'm trying to take a slightly more of a backseat, because after all the years doing this, I find that I often ask the wrong question immediately, because it shuts down everything they were thinking of possibly saying and sends their brain scrambling off. And now Promise is so good at it that she's doing the exact same thing and asking the same question I was going to. I think the next time somebody says, for the Bible tells me so, I might just let them ramble for a while till I just can't stand it.
Sure.
And take notes so that I have like 10 doors to close rather than shutting the first door. Maybe that will be better for teaching. Oh, somebody in chat just said Christ is King. Hey, Curtis, if you pick up the phone and call in 720-619-2288, you can do your best to try to demonstrate that Christ is King. And I'd also like you to demonstrate why we should have kings, because I'm opposed to kings as well as Christs.
Yeah, that's a great point. Are we ready for our next caller?
Yep.
I have a feeling, I think this is a friendly call, actually, so maybe it'll be quick. I think that if I understand this correctly, they're calling in to talk about a potential argument, but let's see. Michael, you are on with Promise and Matt. How are you doing today?
Yes, doing good. How are you?
Good. What was your call about today?
Okay, so you know how a car has a creator, right?
Yeah, let me just ask, are you calling because you want to assert something and you want to have like a casual debate conversation back and forth, or because it says you're agnostic, so that leaves me unclear on your actual position.
Right. So let me just explain. So car has a creator. That means God must have a creator too. You can't prove that God doesn't have a creator.
No, it doesn't. Your opening line is fallacious. The fact that a car has a creator does not mean that God has a creator. Doesn't mean that. I'm sorry. I don't know why you're trying to talk over me and interrupt. I don't know why you're trying to talk over me and interrupt me when I'm correcting your logical fallacy from the Kitco. The fact that a car has a creator doesn't tell you if anything else has a creator. That is a fallacious argument. Try again.
Creator.
Were you talking the whole time? Because you were muted and you were supposed to be listening.
Nobody heard a thing you said. So,
I wasn't talking.
Clearly, you were talking when we unmuted you. So go ahead, try again.
So, you got to tell me when I'm muted. How am I supposed to know?
No, I actually don't. If you were actually listening to the conversation instead of trying to talk over me while I was correcting your fallacy, you'd know and you wouldn't need to know. But go ahead, start over.
So a car has a creator.
Correct.
And then the person has a creator. That means that the thing that created that creator must have a creator too.
Nope, that's the same logical fallacy. All you did was move it back a step. First of all, a car has a creator, and we know that because we have evidence that cars are created and they don't occur naturally. The person who created the car doesn't have a creator, as far as I can tell. They have a process that resulted in their existence and the change of matter from one pattern to another. But even if they had a creator, even if you want to view their parents as a creator or whatever else, going back, that doesn't tell you anything at all about whether or not anything else has a creator, including a God. You are just demonstrably wrong.
Well, why can't God have a creator too?
I don't think there is a God, and I'm not saying that God can or can't have a creator. I'm saying your argument is flawed. I thought you called in to talk about your argument, and I'm pointing out the fallacies in your argument.
Well, that's my argument, is that God must have a creator.
And your argument is fallacious and not worth anybody's time.
Well, something must have created God. You can't prove me wrong.
You're right. I can't prove you wrong because the God concept is unfalsifiable, as is your thing. You have no argument. Are you just trolling? Is this like
This is
Sunday fun
100%
for
a
you to
troll.
waste?
100%
Just
troll.
hang up on Michael. Michael isn't serious. And even if he is intended to be serious, he's not a serious thinker. He doesn't listen and he doesn't understand the fallacies. That was an agnostic waste of my time.
And I was extremely wrong about what I thought that call was. So,
yeah.
Anyways, let's talk to somebody that hopefully is actually calling to talk with us. Let's see. Let's talk with Christopher. Hey, Christopher, you
Hello.
are live on the Sunday show with Matt and Promise. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. It's an honor to talk to you.
What do you want to talk to us
Can you
about
hear me?
today specifically? Yeah.
Okay. Well, first off, I wanted to apologize for all my Protestant cousins who practice sola scriptura.
It's going to go better if
Catholic.
you don't, because we've had just as many terrible experiences with Catholics. So,
and by the way, the Catholic Church is a criminal organization. The Catholic Church is a criminal organization. I don't need anybody to apologize for anybody else. Just apologize for yourself if you do something, and that's good enough.
Here's the thing. I operate 100% on science. I believe that belief in a God is inherently illogical, but I also do not let my belief in that God affect my logical ability.
I disagree. I think you've just proven yourself wrong. If you operate,
it is 100%.
You say you operate entirely on science. What's the scientific justification for belief in God?
Absolutely nothing. That's the nature of belief.
So you don't operate entirely off science. You have a major belief in your life that isn't science-based. So you were wrong when you said you operate exclusively off science.
Well, it more falls towards Pascal's wager.
No,
and
Pascal's wager isn't science and is just a big fallacy. So you can't claim that you operate entirely off science. I'm sorry, you can't claim that you operate entirely off science and expect to be taken seriously when literally the foundation you're trying to defend is something that you admit isn't scientific. So maybe you sometimes operate off science.
No. What I'm saying is that it is. So a lot of people have trouble understanding how, like even my mother. My mother is a devout Catholic. I
don't need you to tell me about your mother. I need you to rehabilitate your statement about whether or not you operate entirely based on science, because you don't.
Well, belief is not based in science, but I don't let that belief influence any of the scientific thought.
So
imagine
what?
If I believed in a giant hawk god.
No. Sorry, beliefs. I'm sorry. You're going to have to listen to me, Christopher, here, because I'm not going to let you move on from this point until you acknowledge that you're actually wrong. Beliefs are the state of being convinced that something is true. If you say that you operate based entirely on science, that means your beliefs are science-based, and they can't be if you acknowledge that they're not accessible by science, which means you're not operating entirely science-based. Why don't you just drop the I operate entirely science-based and say, I try to operate science-based, but I still have some lingering bullshit beliefs or beliefs I can't justify or beliefs that aren't scientific, just like every other human on the planet.
I will acknowledge that 100%. You are right. The basis for my belief in God is based in fear that I will potentially receive some sort of eternal punishment for not being good enough. You are right.
Why aren't you afraid of other gods?
The thing I'm sorry, go ahead.
Why aren't you afraid of other gods and other hells?
I'll be honest with you, because I was raised in Western Christianity. That's how it goes. I mean, if I die and Quetzalcoatl is there, I'm going to be very surprised. But
what if there's a God there that what if there's a God there?
Saying.
What if there's a God there that decides your disposition in eternity based on whether or not you were gullible enough to believe something out of fear instead of reason?
Yeah, what if that's a terrifying thing? That's the basilisk argument.
What if you picked the wrong version of even the God you believe in? Wouldn't it be better to just be intellectually honest and say, I'm not convinced of any of this? What good being could possibly punish you for being intellectually honest?
And this is true. And this is part of the reason why like I say, I identify as Catholic, but, it's really hard to get, like I said, it's a product of upbringing. But I do my best to try and not let it influence my decisions, specifically on other people's freedoms. Like a lot of Catholics don't understand how much the Catholic Church tells us to mind our own fucking business. So, and I
you
try
mean as they're shuffling child abusers around and denying medicine to AIDS-ravaged Africans? They're telling you to mind your own business.
Actually,
why doesn't your church mind its own business?
100%. They actually 100% did. This was a thing from the 60s up until about 2001. John Paul II got a bunch of Freemasons out of the cardinalship, and now we're actually prosecuting people, which I'm very happy to see. In fact, Pope Francis was hugely instrumental in getting people. I'm not saying that we are not, the Catholic Church doesn't have its problems. I mean, the Crusades happened. That was a thing. The child abuse scandals.
We don't have to go back to the Crusades. We don't have to go back to the Crusades. We only have to go back one pope to find massive problems. And the fact that the entire organization is a criminal organization that's been hiding child rapists for ages and abusing clergy and abusing nuns and stealing babies and supporting Hitler and denying medication and condoms to people ravaged with AIDS. Let's not pretend like your organization isn't vile and disgusting and built on a fiction.
And they're also claiming to represent the guy who said to give all you have to the poor and leave and follow him. And they have like some of the most insane amounts of wealth. Like, look at the Vatican itself. That's just hilarious.
They have a massive trove in the Vatican of all this stuff. But what I try to stick to is just the core tenets of the be good and nice to people, part of it. And
why can't you do that without the Catholic Church? Why can't you do that without the pedos and without the hoarding money and without the being the most horrific representation of this whole treat others well that you possibly could be? Why can't you just do it on your own, Christopher?
Well, I can. I choose the community of the church. Also, if we're going to go about pedos, pedos are.
Why do you want to have community in a way that you are supporting an institution that historically is horrific and has caused mass amounts of harm? Why don't you want to find community where you're not supporting that institution?
I mean, we're supporting Israel, who's causing mass amounts of harm. I mean,
Agreed.
And we think that that's fucked up. That's awful.
You
it's
can be
terrible.
against capitalism, but you have to participate in it. It's like
you don't have to participate in the Catholic Church, Christopher. I'm not participating in it, and Matt isn't,
Correct.
And you don't have to either. You're right. There are certain things that are really, really hard to avoid, but not all things.
Yeah, they are,
and certainly not the Catholic Church.
But I choose to focus on the good parts.
Well, that's called cherry picking and dishonest. I want you to demonstrate that it's true. Not that you like it. I don't care if you like it. I don't care if you like the community. I'm sorry, I'm still talking. I don't care if you like I don't care if you like the community. I care whether or not the tenets of the religion are true or not. Do you have any way to demonstrate that Catholicism is true?
Oh, absolutely not. But my point is that
so basically, once again, you are saying that you are advocating for something. No. I'm still talking again. You are advocating for something because you like it, not because it's true. So let's stop pretending that you care about what's true, because you don't. You care more about what's comforting.
Oh yes, actually, that's I do. The comfort is a huge part of it, but that's me acknowledging my humanity. We always go for what's comforting. My
No, we
point
don't.
is,
No, we
is that I
don't. No,
want
we
you
don't.
to
Because
know
I'm
that there's
sitting here
people
because
out,
I didn't.
I want you to
Christopher,
know that
I'm
there's
sitting here
people
because
out
I
here
didn't.
who acknowledge that people like you have a right to exist, a right to.
Oh, shut the fuck up. Go ahead, Promise.
Christopher, I don't understand how you can come on here and defend that basically what you believe, you even admit is irrational. I think that's what you've admitted to. And we've pointed out and you've agreed with us that this institution is horrific and has caused horrific things throughout history. And yet you're like, well, I like community. You can get that other places. Well, I like to treat other people well. You can do that without supporting this terrible institution. Can you tell me why anybody should follow in your footsteps instead of finding community and finding, whatever morality or purpose or meaning looks like for them outside of the Catholic Church? Why should somebody follow your footsteps where you're having to cherry pick almost every, yes, because you were on mute. I took you off of mute now.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
So to me, Christopher, getting a call like this is one of the most sad calls we get because it's somebody calling in, hearing all the other callers like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. You want to apologize because you hear the BS that's being thrown at us from Christians. And you yourself say that you don't think your belief is rational, and then you defend supporting the Catholic Church, which is one of the worst institutions I can possibly think of.
I'm sorry if you took that as defending. I did nothing but acknowledge those things did happen.
So what are you calling in for, Christopher? What are you calling in for?
Like,
but Christopher, I don't associate. If I heard that the line was doing something immoral or unethical, I would stop working for it. I would not be like, well, yeah, but I really like community, and there's some little good things. That's
not
crazy
for nothing,
talk.
but by that logic, if you liked working for Walmart, that would make you an evil person because you liked your coworkers.
No. Okay.
It would mean you're supporting a corrupt organization.
You're giving money. Yes. If somebody was giving money to Walmart, then yes, you are not giving money to Walmart. You're giving money to the Catholic Church.
Oh, I don't give shit to the Catholic Church. I don't believe in tithing.
So you just show up there and you add to their numbers and you call the line to say that. I don't know what your point was in calling, to be actually honest with you.
He's here to show off.
To apologize and say
everything about Christians' religious view is 1,000,000% performative. It's not tied to anything real. He's not part of a church. He's not supporting a church. You can try and talk over me. It's never going to work for you. You have an embarrassing non-defense because you like what's comforting, and you try to shrug off the fact, well, we're not the only ones that are bad. There are plenty of other churches and organizations with criminal actions and pederasty and all these things. That's called whataboutism, and it's also a logical fallacy. Not surprising that Christopher's just going to keep presenting logical fallacy because Christopher doesn't care about what's true. He cares about what's comforting. And what's really embarrassing is that what Christopher finds comforting is fucking awful. And yet his excuse is, I don't contribute to them monetarily.
That's a misrepresentation. But I did call in because I respected your intellectual honesty.
Okay. Well, you got it in both barrels. You want more of it?
It's fine. I was trying to contribute and help, but I'm sorry.
You were trying to what?
Can you explain what you were trying to contribute? Because I'm genuinely confused. Because when somebody like you calls it in,
I was trying to demonstrate that not every Christian is some idiotic young Earth creationist who denies actual fact and science. That's all I was.
Well, congratulations. You demonstrated that some of them are idiots that don't fall for the young Earth.
And good people, that we're not all the same. You know,
but Christopher, what you've called
I've done
in to
this
tell
for
us
20
is that
fucking years. Do you think in your stupid little mind that there's any chance I don't know that?
All right, you're insulting me now. Goodbye.
Yes, you deserve it. You came in on your high horse.
You called in to basically say, I know better and I still won't do better. That is worse to me than the people that call in and say, well, I don't really know better because I've been indoctrinated and I don't understand the basics of science. And so I believe this thing. and I genuinely believe it. And in fact, I invest my life and my money and everything into it. But you've called in to basically be like, well, I just take what I like out of it, and I don't care about the consequences or how this impacts everybody else. I don't care that it sounds illogical. And now I want to call in and get a pat on the back for not believing that the earth is only 6,000 years old. That
Yes.
doesn't make any sense to me. That is one of the worst kind of calls I think we could get, to be totally honest. In my opinion.
Your religion is 100% performative, and your call was 100% performative. You heard the people that you think you're superior to and wanted to call in and let all of us know you're not like those people. No, you're just as bad. You don't care about truth. It's just that you didn't buy into one little thing. You wanted us to make you feel comfortable about how you're not like those other people who are supporting criminal organizations, because you don't do it financially. You just do it by announcing that this is your view. You wanted us to realize that you're not like those idiots who think the earth was created in 6 days, 4 to 10,000 years ago. You follow science, except you don't, because your beliefs aren't supported by science. But that's okay, because you then admit that you just do it for comfort. Well, I'm not going to provide you comfort. We're not here to coddle you and pretend like you've done something laudable, because you haven't. And if you think for a second that the people who've been doing this for 20 fucking years, who are former believers, who work alongside believers, I have worked alongside the Reverend Barry Lynn and others in supporting church-state separation. He's a Christian. I'm not. You're just demonstrating exactly how clueless you are about reality to think that we needed you to call in and tell us hashtag not all Christians. That's pretty sad, Christian.
That was frustrating. And honestly, I think one of the worst things about that is you get to bypass having to defend what you actually believe. So there's no honor in it whatsoever. I respect the people way more that call in and look like clowns when they don't follow science, because at least they're trying to back what they believe, even though I don't agree with the way they've done it, even if it ends up being irrational, even if they're not good at communicating themselves, even if they haven't really thought it through until they call in and talk to us. At least they're making an attempt and not just basically absolving themselves of all responsibility, all guilt. You only get the good stuff, and who cares about everybody else? It's
Danny,
one of the most selfish positions.
Danny is more deserving of my respect and approval than you are, because while you don't believe in quite as much silly stuff, Danny at least was straightforward. He believes this. He believes it's in the Bible, just like that. Didn't try to put himself above anybody else. He just stated what he'd been indoctrinated to. You came in trying to lecture, let us know they're not all like that. When I've done this for 20 years and was a Christian for all the years before it, except for the first 5, because I hadn't quite been indoctrinated then. So thanks for calling. But I want to talk to theists who actually want to defend their view, or even ask questions about ours.
We've got quite a few callers waiting on the line. Is there any that you specifically do or don't want to talk to, or you just want me to pick somebody?
I think you should take Colton without me.
Yeah, let's see. Colton has specified that he wants to talk to Matt for some reason. I guess doesn't care that I'm here, but let's see. Maybe Colton will include me in the conversation. Hey, Colton, you are on the Sunday show with Matt and Promise. How are you doing today?
Good, you?
Doing all right. So you wanted to call in and ask Matt. Is there a reason you wanted to talk to Matt and not both of us?
No, sorry. I kind of just jumped in on, I was scrolling and I saw it. I didn't really know. I thought you were just kind of there moderating stuff. I wasn't sure how it was going down.
No, I'm hanging out too. Okay,
cool.
So what do you want to call in and ask us today?
So I told you I've never actually met an atheist. I grew up in a very rural area. I had a conversation about atheism. So I was just curious. I wanted to start. So what is the basics of science?
Well, let's start somewhere else though, actually, because I'm curious if you know what an atheist is. How would you define atheist?
I guess simply that you don't believe in any type of spirituality. You don't believe in any type of creator. It's all an accident. I don't know. I guess that's how I would. I'm just a regular guy.
Specifically. No, it's okay. I used to not know what an atheist was. I actually learned from Matt.
Okay.
So
Okay.
here we all are, full circle. No, so an atheist is just somebody who doesn't believe that any gods or deities exist. It doesn't tell you if that person follows science. It doesn't tell you if that person is on the right politically or on the left. It doesn't tell you if that person is reasonable or if they're a skeptic or anything like that. It just tells you that they don't believe a God exists. So anything else, you'd have to ask the individual.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough.
Can we
But
ask?
you definitely don't believe in the Christian God, right?
Yeah, I definitely don't. Can I ask? I guess you do.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Okay. What's your reason for believing in that God?
So, like I said, first off, it definitely, I feel like for the most part, most people usually tend to stick with the thing that they were, raised into. I mean, that just is what it is for a lot of people, right? So I guess that would obviously be where I would have gotten my foundation, with my raising. I wouldn't say even in my earlier childhood that I was, a churchgoer, but there definitely was always an influence of, Christian principles and whatnot. But after high school, probably my early to mid 20s is when I truly, dived into, a church fellowship and kind of just went all in with the.
Can I ask,
faith.
was it Southern Baptist?
Yeah. We just always said Baptist. Yeah, it's Southern Baptist. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like youth group and all of that in high school.
Correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you ever thought? Yeah, Matt has that in common with you. Have you ever thought that there's a chance that it's not true?
Sure. Yeah, I think every Christian, we would, consider that, temptations and evil forces or Satan or whatever you want to call it. That we get tempted, we get confused and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I definitely had doubts, throughout my walk.
Do you feel convinced at this point? Like, how sure are you that the Christian God is real?
So this is where it comes down to, it's more of a sensation than anything. It's more of just, me going through trials in life, and feeling like, the God that I believe in, answering me, may not, obviously be, he came down and, spoke to me personally in the English language and told me what to do. But,
you're saying he didn't.
Spirituality.
He didn't do that, or you're saying he did do that?
He did. No, he didn't do that. No.
Okay. Do you think there's a chance that, well, let me ask you this. Have there been times you've prayed and asked God for something and God didn't answer in some way?
I wouldn't say that he didn't answer, but it wasn't in the way that I portrayed it to be, or how it was going to happen and how it was going to work out. So I wouldn't say that I feel like he's never not answered me, or if there's been a trial or suffering in my life with something that I was dealing with, it was like a delayed answer. But no, I wouldn't say that he's never not giving me an answer. Am I correct?
Okay, I would say there's been a lot of times that I've prayed and I didn't get an answer.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I actually just posted a video the other day of me praying and getting no answer.
Okay.
I was a Christian for over 20 years. So if we count the times when we like let's say we count all the times that you think that God answered, do we not count the times when God didn't answer me? Is that not evidence to the contrary?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to speak for anybody else. I'm just going to speak for myself, my personal relationship with Christ.
Matt's got a question here, so I'm going to let him cut in.
So, instead of making you speak for anybody else, let's follow me for just a second here and let's just speak for you. So you think God speaks to you, but not audibly or anything else. So you get an impression that God has a message for you and you run with it, right?
I feel like it's sensations, or it's him using other people or tools to speak to me.
Yeah. So you feel like God wants you to have some understanding, and you're perceiving that from a sensation or actions or whatever else, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it, are there chances, are there times in the past where you thought God was trying to get you a message, but you decided later that you were wrong about that?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Have there been times in the past where you thought God had a message for you, but you think you got it wrong?
I guess nothing personally with me in my life, nothing of major consequence, but with, smaller issues, sure.
Okay. If God has an important message for you, why would he give it to you in impressions and sensations you already believe? And if God were to actually communicate with you directly and clearly, why wouldn't he do that?
Because I feel that a perfect God can't enter into an imperfect world.
So you don't think God can communicate clearly with this world?
No, he can speak to you in the ways that
that's why I'm asking. Why doesn't he? Why doesn't he?
Because I don't feel that I feel like also too that, what's the point of Christ and faith if God was to just come down, from wherever he is?
I think faith is a bad thing. Faith is the excuse people give when they don't have a good reason. And here we are. I'm asking you why, if God has a message for you, why wouldn't he communicate it to you clearly rather than like playing emotional charades? And your answer is because then that would make Christ and faith useless. I'm well aware of what the Bible says. I don't think it's true, but you already believe that Christ died for your sin, and you've already exercised the faith so that God might grant you salvation by grace. God has nothing to gain from continuing to hide from you. He only has things to gain from making sure that he's clear, right?
I mean, I guess if that's what I personally just, I believe what I believe. I have until, I feel like, it would have to be like, it would literally have to be like a cold, hard, physical fact of someone proving to me, which I don't see that being possible, that God doesn't exist. And that's kind of like
that's because Colton, you have now shifted the burden of proof. You're unable to demonstrate that God is real. You're playing emotional charades and determining God is real. And when asked why God won't clear this up, you just go out and say, you can't imagine anybody ever proving that God isn't real. Well, that's not how the burden of proof works. But that is how you avoid answering any justification for your belief. Because the reality is, in pure reason terms, if God has an important message and God is capable of communicating it clearly, then there's no justification for God not presenting it clearly. And every time you dodge that, to be like, well, that would do this. Well, those are called post hoc rationalizations. They're not reasons for anything. And when you say that nobody's going to convince you that God isn't real, what you're doing is you're saying your mind is closed and you no longer care about truth or reason.
No, I think, isn't me saying that? All right. So, I feel like too, when I was younger and I wasn't, as mature and able to really articulate, how I was going with things in my life, I looked at it like it was a game, right? And, God made the game. If we're all, know for a fact, God comes down from the clouds in physical form and, exposes himself to us, then what is the point of Christ dying on the cross?
Well, hold on, Colton, first of all, God literally did that in the Bible many times for many people, specifically Paul, who went on and became almost more important than Jesus in the Bible. And God had no problem sending Jesus, a bright light in the sky, literally what you're describing, to appear before Saul. And he converted to becoming a whole different person to the point that he changed his name. So God doesn't have a problem doing that, apparently, according to the stories. He just doesn't do it now. But here's what we're really trying to...
came down to Paul?
Yes, have you read the Bible?
Yeah, I have, and I don't think he physically.
So you haven't read about the road to Damascus, where it very clearly describes.
Paul converted
Yes,
from
to the
Saul to
point.
Paul.
To the light was so bright that it blinded Paul.
The light was blinding. Yep.
So Paul was convinced
Paul.
after that. It converted him. Whatever that experience was, you can say that it wasn't physical. Whatever that experience was, it was so intense that it converted him. So like God can totally do that according to the Bible, and has done that, and doesn't have a problem doing that, and doesn't,
I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't think it.
Hold on, Colton. I'm getting to my point. Here's my point. We have people like you that call in saying these same things. And I'm not saying you've done this, but they're trying to tell, because so far I don't think you have said this. They say that I should believe what they believe, or that Matt should believe what they believe. And they will try to use the same arguments you have. And we say, this is not convincing. If somebody called in and they were using all of these same things to say that we should follow Islam, we should follow Allah. And here's all the reasons. And it's the same as you. Well, I have these impressions. I feel like it's God Allah that has answered my prayers. I don't think they even believe that God answers prayers, but that's a side note. Somebody could call in with any religion and give us the exact same things that you have. Give us all the exact same reasons. Why should we believe you over them?
I mean, like I said, I didn't come in here claiming to be some, like, philosopher or some extremely educated person that has.
Colton. I was homeschooled.
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Colton, I was homeschooled my entire life. I don't have an education to speak of. So you're not talking to a philosopher over here.
You get my point. I'm not. You get my point.
I totally get your point, but I'm trying to encourage you to do better for yourself. It's nothing on me what you walk away believing, except for until you start voting, and then it is. But this is for your sake. Why don't you want to believe things that are true?
What do you mean?
Well, so far you haven't given us a reason to think that what you believe is true. You just have basically said you grew up.
That there isn't a God.
But Colton, then why aren't you believing in all the other gods? Why this one?
Because I told you, my entire life, I feel that when I opened into the Christian religion, that I got an answer. It may not be what you think is an answer, or, like the example that you tried to give me with Paul, which I still am not sure if that was. I'll have to go back. I'm pretty sure in all the years I've never interpreted or looked at it and took from that he physically came down. But
Colton,
I gave you the answers that I felt.
Colton, you're being dishonest now, and now that's Colton. Now you're being dishonest. How? Did Paul have an experience that convinced him? Did he go from being unconvinced that a God existed to being convinced? And it was. I'm in the middle of talking. Did he go from being unconvinced that a God existed to being convinced that he did after an experience with that God?
Yes. Yes.
Great. So then God is capable. So then God is. So then God is capable of giving experiences.
Yes, he gave me experiences.
Prove it.
Great. Why doesn't God give anybody else experiences then? Why are there so many of us that have not had this experience? And why does this God seemingly show up as other gods to other people, especially in other countries where other religions are more popular? Why does that God, when he does show up and give these random experiences, why is it a different God?
Why is it say that again? Sorry. You say that again. You said that pretty fast.
When this supposed God shows up and gives other people experiences in other parts of the world, why is it suddenly a different God that has given those experiences? Why is it Hindu gods that show up to people in other parts of the world? And why is it Allah that show up to people in other parts of the world?
I don't think it is. I think it's the one
But they
God,
do.
The only
but
God.
They do, Colton. And so far, you are on the same level as them with the amount of evidence that you've presented.
I will say, probably, it's consistent. I'll say it's consistent on Colton's part. It's completely consistent on Colton's part. It's completely consistent on Colton's part because Colton's God is such a weak, poor communicator and is so unclear that people in other countries confuse it for their gods.
So can you give me the proof that there is no God?
I'm sorry, I already talked about this. The
Can
burden
you?
of proof is on the people who are claiming there is a God. It's not up to me to prove there's not a God. It's not to me to prove there's not a Bigfoot. It's not up to me to prove
Colton?
there's not a Loch Ness monster.
Colton,
I'm
I'll
sorry that
mute
you
you.
don't know the basics of a burden of proof, but the burden of proof is on the people who are claiming that X is so.
Colton, can you prove? I don't know if you can
no,
see the screen right now. Do you see my little
that's
fairy
that's
that I
pretty.
have? Colton, do you see the little fairy on the
What?
screen right now?
Do
She's
what?
really cute. Anyways, so she's
Man,
hanging out there.
there's a
She is
better
the God
question.
of the universe. Can you prove that she's not the God of the universe?
Can I prove that she's not the God of the universe? No, I guess I
Yes.
can.
Can you
Okay,
prove
so
you're
then why
not a
don't you believe
child
her?
rapist?
Do what?
Can you prove that you don't grape children?
Yeah, I could prove that. Yeah.
Really? How do you do that? How do you prove that you've never done that?
Dude, that's crazy. That's a crazy thing to say. That
But
is a
that's
crazy
how
thing to
burden
It's
of
not a
proof
crazy
works,
thing to
I
say.
guess
Colton.
I
You
can't. I guess
literally
I guess I can't. I can't prove that I don't
correct.
rape children.
Correct. Colton, calm down and listen. Calm down and listen. That was the point. As soon as you make it about you, where you have to imagine yourself in court defending, trying to prove you didn't do something. There's a reason why in courtrooms, the burden of proof is on the prosecution. It's because some things are unfalsifiable. It's because some things cannot be disproven. The time to believe them is after they've been proven. You don't just get to sit around and believe stuff until somebody proves it wrong. That is irrational. And it would be irrational for people to assume that you are an abuser of anyone. That is something that needs to be demonstrated.
Okay. Fair
So
enough.
if you can't meet the burden of proof for God, should we believe you?
I mean, I get what you're saying. I do. I'm not unreasonable.
I literally
but
just asked
I
a
just
question.
don't understand how.
I literally just asked a question. If you can't meet your burden of proof for God, should we believe you?
Why should they believe you? I just said
We're not
I mean,
making
it's
any
They should
claims,
believe. They
Colton.
should believe me. They should believe me,
I get what
Colton.
you're saying.
They should
I
believe
get what
me,
you're saying
Colton.
about the prosecutor example.
Colton, you
I
asked
do,
me a
but-
question. Do you want to fucking answer, or do you want to talk over me and pretend like you did something big? I'm going to answer your question, and I'm going to mute you while I do it, and you can sit there quietly. They should believe me because my position is that to date, the burden of proof for God claims has not been met. You just demonstrated that you have epically failed to do it, and you're desperate to shift the burden of proof. And right now, even after you acknowledge the burden of proof, you again tried to shift the burden of proof by saying, why should people believe you? They should believe my position because my position is logical, rational, skeptical, and supported by evidence. What it says is not there are no gods anywhere, but there's no good reason to be convinced of a God. And you are here on behalf of Jesus or whoever, demonstrating that I am right with every word that leaves your lips because you are failing to demonstrate a burden of proof. You are failing by acknowledging that you can't meet a burden of proof. You are failing by acknowledging you do not understand the burden of proof. And even after you agree to it and have had to explain it to it, you try to shift it again. I've met my burden of proof. That's why people should believe me.
No, you haven't. No,
Colton,
you haven't,
what's a
dude.
claim?
I'm done with this clown.
Name
Oh,
name
wait.
one
Oh,
claim.
you're
Colton.
you're that dude. I know
Colton.
who you are. You're that dude
Colton.
that got owned by.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew he was a fake.
That was me muting. Yeah. It started off too well. Do you want me to even let him back on, or are we done with him?
No, this is another Andrew Wilson clone thing or
Andrew
Jay Dyer,
Wilson.
whatever.
Ugh.
It's hilarious because all you did for Jesus was demonstrate that Jesus seems to be incapable of communicating clearly with you, communicating clearly with the world, and Jesus seems to be unable to send anybody in who can interact honestly and make a good case demonstration for why we should believe it. So keep on going. I could defend your religion better than you do, and I don't even buy it anymore.
That was a bummer. We
Yeah,
almost could have had a decent conversation if once he realized, once we made our points that he couldn't respond to. He was like, well, okay, I'll go think about this. Because if he was telling the truth and this was his first conversation with atheists, then that would be totally fair. If he's like, thanks, you gave me a lot to think about. I'm going to go think about this. Call you guys back next week. Would have even been fine. I would have taken his call about 10 minutes before, or maybe 5 minutes before even the end. But then it's like that moment that happens in so many calls where you can feel their brain like click into place where it's like, nope, cannot leave dogma, will not get off narrative, stay here at all costs, avoid any truth
I've also
telling.
never lost a fight with a pickle jar, and I can tell you all about dilemmas and trilemmas and why it's stupid to ask if they're true.
Yeah, that's. I'm looking at these other calls though. I'm tempted to take this one, the very last one, but I guess we should, I don't know, to get it over with just in case. I don't know if you saw on Discord.
One. I'm in a great mood now because I thought we were getting a sincere caller, and we worked really hard to make it as sincere as possible, but it was just baiting.
That was sad. All right, let's talk to Dylan. Hey, Dylan, you are on the Sunday show with Matt and Promise. What did you call in to talk to us about today?
How's it going? That Jesus is the truth.
Okay, so you believe that Jesus is a God?
Yeah.
Okay, why?
My creator.
No, why do you believe that Jesus is a God?
My creator.
Oh, this is the guy that uses ChatGPT.
Oh, is this just ChatGPT?
Yeah, we can drop him. Cool. Anybody who just says this same thing
Dylan.
twice. I got your number, Dylan. Thanks for calling. Say goodbye.
And now we can make space for actual theist callers. Okay. Maybe we chat with Will. Wants conversation about religion as his wife is atheist and he is Christian. Let's see.
Cool.
Hey, Will, you are on the Sunday show with Promise and Matt. How are you today?
Are you there, Will?
Will?
Are we sure we didn't mute the call line?
I haven't.
Let's put Will back in the queue. We'll try to get back to Will.
Okay.
And we'll just
Will, if you can hear us, we're putting you back to queue. We'll take your call after the next one. Let's chat with George, who called in on the premise of the show, which says, "Why is God hiding?"
Yeah, cool.
Hey, George, you are on the Sunday show with Promise and Matt. How are you doing today? Sorry, I can't talk today.
I'm very good. How are you?
All right. It says
Great.
You wanted to call in on why is God hiding? So let's hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I want to know what the premise of your question is. Like, why do you think God is hiding?
Oh,
well, I don't think a God is hiding because I don't believe a God exists. But Christians are always telling me to find Jesus. So the answer, what I would ask back is, okay, why is he hiding then? But Matt might have a different answer.
There's a classic category of arguments against particular types of gods, and they're called arguments from divine hiddenness. And basically, they make the case that the world does not appear or provide the evidence and information that one would expect if the proposed God in question existed. So, for example, if we were going with, a God that has as its nature a perfect pink sparkly sky every single day, well, reality isn't consistent with that. So that's a conflict. But in the case of something like Christianity, the stuff we would expect to see, we don't. And so, or at least not for that case. So that's what we're saying, why is God hiding?
What would we expect to see in Christianity?
Well, if God is the all-knowing creator of the universe, that I would expect him to get the order of creation right, events right. I would expect him to be able to communicate clearly. I would expect him to not be okay with slavery, and then never really correct it. I would expect him not necessarily to be in love with the smell of blood and substitutional atonement and punishing people for things they didn't do and extending all of those things. But also, since the Bible specifically says that if you reach out to God He will present himself to you. He will demonstrate this. That doesn't happen. All we get are claims about it, but it never seems to happen. And so what should we be expecting? And how can you demonstrate it's happened?
Well, I think your premise is incorrect because you want to apply that, God, wants blood and this and that. None of that is true.
That's what's in the Bible.
Clear that,
that's what's in the Bible.
Finish, please.
No. I'm not going to allow you to finish. I'm not going to allow you to finish. I'm going to pause because you're saying that one of my points was wrong and I need clarification. Are you saying that what I said is not accurate to the Bible?
True.
It's not true.
That's not true. God is not saying I want blood. You don't understand the premise of why blood is necessary. That's not true.
Who decided that blood would be necessary?
So I will explain this to you then.
George.
What happened?
Who decided? Who decided?
Ma'am, I'm going to explain it. If you give me
No. I don't want you to preach. I don't want you to preach, George. This should be.
I can't say because your premise is incorrect. You're trying to say.
Okay, let me ask you
a yes or no
question.
You because you're not going to talk down to or over my co-host at all. You've already accused me of wrong, and in the meantime, I've looked up the verses. But we're going to let you finish. But all you've got to do is answer Promise's question, and then you can continue. This is not your platform. It's our platform. You're here to defend a position. You can either do it or you can't. But those of us who have spent our life studying this stuff and are former believers who can quote Leviticus 1:9 and others that show that you're wrong, Promise just wanted you to know who said that. All you got to do is answer that question and you get to keep going. I don't know why this is so difficult for you, but let's try.
So, George, here's a yes or no question for you. Is God the one that decided blood would be necessary? That blood would specifically be the thing.
Correct premise. If you allow me to get the premise right, I will answer your question 100%. Now, what happened was when man fell and sin came into the world, it said that if you sin brings death, right? Life.
Who decided that? Who decided that that would be the consequences?
Hold on.
No, you don't get to just keep preaching. Who decided that is how it would work?
Because you sinned, you died. That is the premise.
Who decided that, George? Who decided that?
He was talking while I was on mute. George, I need you to take a breath, please.
God.
We've had nothing but calls, and I get it. You've probably never dealt with anything like this before, and it's 2-on-1, and you're in front of people who probably know the Bible better than you beyond your indoctrination. I don't need you to tell me about how man's sin brought sin and death into the world. I know the story. I have preached the story. I have taught the story. I don't need you to explain how that is related to the blood and that Christianity is one big blood magic cult. I already know that. You've already said that I was wrong, despite what Leviticus 1:9 says. That it expressly says about the burnt offering that it's a sweet-smelling pleasure to the Lord. Promise is trying to ask you a very important question, which is, you're saying, because of sin, that requires death. And Promise's question was, who says? Try again.
God says.
How do you know God says?
Me to give a short answer, and I'm not allowed to build any premise.
Okay, if all you're going to do is whine like a little bitch, I'm going to keep muting you and annoying you. You said God said. And my follow-up question is, how do we know that God said? Because right now, George, I only have your word for it. So please, when I bring you back in, don't whine about how you can't finish. Just answer the question. How do we know that God said this?
Fair and allow me to speak. That's what it's about.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You were on mute that entire time, and you're just whining back to yourself because you are incapable of having a conversation like a grown-up. But I'm going to try one last time, George, and I swear, this is the last time I'm going to put up with this. We're trying to figure out what you're talking about, and we're trying to expose problems in your thinking because we both used to share your beliefs. Promise said, who said so? And you said God said so. The follow-up question, this is all we need you to answer, and then you get to keep going, is how can we know anything that anything was in fact said by God? Because right now, all I have is you and a book. How can we know that God said what you think God said? Let's try again.
Full of prophecies that came true. The promise.
Okay. You have to wait for the beep. That lets you know that you're off mute. So I'm going to ask you the question. I'm going to take you off, wait for the beep. And then I need you to make sure that we're clear by starting with, here's the question you asked me, and here's the answer. So here we go. I'm going to take you off mute. Wait for the beep.
You can mute me all you want, boy, but you got to allow.
Okay. I don't have to allow shit. As a matter of fact, I'm going to dump you back in the queue and go on to another caller until you learn some fucking manners where you don't just come in and whine your little ass off because you are a shitty defender of the Lord Jesus Christ. I could defend your religion. Matter of fact, promise, ask me the questions.
So who decided that blood sacrifice was needed in order to atone for the sins of man?
It's God, and it's because it's part of his nature.
Oh, how do you know that it's part of his nature?
I know because of the inner witness of the Holy Spirit that guides me to an understanding of the Bible's word.
And how are you sure that that's the Holy Spirit and not just you convincing yourself of something?
I'm not sure I can actually demonstrate that to you. God has convinced me, and I have to take it on faith and that it keeps bringing goodness to my life to keep working this way.
Is that a good reason to believe something?
It may not be a good reason for you to believe, because I wouldn't necessarily have good reason to believe just because you believe something or because God has shown it to you. Hopefully someday God will show this to you and you will have a good reason, but I don't think my reason is going to be good enough for you, but it's definitely good enough for me.
Great. That sounds like basically exactly what I would have said 10, 15 years ago.
Can we see if George can come in and be grown up now?
Yeah, I just also realized that George didn't know how to answer for their pronouns. So maybe George just can't answer questions. I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, let's ask her.
George doesn't believe in pronouns outside of those in the English language. So you don't get special pronouns.
I'm sorry.
I guess she's like just not going to answer anything for us.
Yeah. I'm sorry, George. Did you say you don't believe in you don't believe in pronouns? You don't believe in pronouns?
I believe that we have applicable pronouns to the English language. There's no
so do
which
we.
one is applicable
Which ones apply to you?
I'm a man. What do you think? You guys have learned English, right?
I don't know. Do you prefer he, him, or she, her, or they, them?
It doesn't matter what I prefer. It's the language.
It does matter what you prefer. Okay, it's time to take George back to kindergarten. Nobody can hear you now. Now you get to listen to mommy and daddy educate you on the basics. So you're 50, I'm 57. You probably remember Schoolhouse Rock? I hope so, because the Schoolhouse Rock thing about pronouns is one of my favorites. See, I had a friend named Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla. That's way too much to say, so we use pronouns. A pronoun takes the place of a noun, because saying all those nouns over and over can really bring you down. But the fact of the matter is, there are people who you might incorrectly assume what their preferred pronouns are. For example, I'm not particularly fond of being called her or she. It's not going to piss me off or upset me. It's just not my preference. I would rather be referred to as he, him. And most people could probably guess that, because normatively speaking, we tend to present ourselves in a way that is often safe to assume what somebody's preferred pronouns are. But since we're on a show and we don't know you and we can't see you and you're not giving us any of the individual cues, out of respect for people so that we don't inadvertently, incorrectly gender them, we ask people just for their preferred pronouns. But you're such a fragile little bitch that you won't even give your preferred pronouns because you think you're playing into some sort of new gender wokeness. No, it's called respect, something that you are sorely lacking in. Because I ask people to provide, just like I asked you what your name was, George, I could just call you dumbass for the entire call without ever asking your name. Hey, on line 8, we've got dumbass, who's a theist from Florida. But no, we ask you for your name because we want to call people what they would prefer to be called. I'm sorry that the basics of respect and your flawed assumptions that you can always tell and you always know the right pronouns and you're not buying into any of this stuff. I'm sorry that your bigotry and ignorance have led you so that we're now going to call you she, her for the rest of this call, assuming that we got it right. So here we go.
Okay.
Welcome back, George. Let's see what she has to say.
I don't care if you call me she, her, my guy.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for permission.
Flawed.
How can we help you, ma'am?
I don't care about that. You know,
how can we help you, ma'am?
It doesn't matter if you call me she.
How can we help you, ma'am?
The premise is flawed.
Wait, George, how would we hold on, George? How would we know that you're a man?
Because do I sound like a female to you?
Is that what determines?
Like a bitch to me.
I'm asking. I'm asking the female talking. Do I sound like a female to you? I'm asking.
If you
sound like a bitch to me.
If you call me female again, I will just let you move on because I'm a human. Actually, I'm not just a female. You can be just a male if that's what you want to identify as. That's fine. But George,
ma'am, it's okay if you call me just a male. I'm okay.
George,
no, we're not. Okay, I'm going to mute you again and let Promise lecture you now because we're also not just a binary species. We're normatively binary.
Yeah, George, I was just going to ask, how would we know through the phone that you are a man and that you want to be called he, him? How would we possibly know that? Do you think that how somebody's voice sounds is what determines their gender? Are we going based off of some like subjective things like that? That would be interesting to hear from your point of view. That would be one of your more progressive views.
If a person is a male or female, it very much so the sound and inflection of their voice. Yes,
is it possible to get it wrong? Is it possible to get it wrong based on the sound of someone's voice?
Absolutely possible to get it wrong.
Cool.
Correct.
If it's
so that's
possible
why
to get it wrong, if it's possible, stop talking. Okay, since you can't stop talking, I'm going to mute you. We're going to take you back to kindergarten where you only get to answer yes or no questions. And I'm going to bring you in and you get to answer yes or no. Thank you when I said, is it possible to get it wrong for you saying yes? And so my conclusion is that if it's possible to get it wrong just from listening, then what could possibly be the objection to asking someone what pronouns they would prefer? Because they might prefer one that you or I might not immediately guess just from the cues of listening to their voice. We're going to get it right probably most of the time, but we might get it wrong, and you've acknowledged we can get it wrong. So how is it a problem to ask someone for their preference?
Nonsense didn't come along to the last 10 years. You're talking about the...
Okay, I'm sorry. I literally asked you how it could be a problem to ask somebody what their preference is, and your fragile little MAGA, broken, bigoted, bitch-ass brain went on to this nonsense didn't come on till 10 years ago. I don't care if it showed up yesterday. If respect for people and asking for their preference just fucking showed up yesterday, if it just showed up right at the beginning of this call, I need you to answer the question, which is this. What is wrong with us asking someone's preference? I'm going to take you off mute. You're going to hear a beep. And then you're going to say, it's wrong to ask someone their preference because, and then you'll answer it. And if any other words leave your mouth, I will hang up on you. Wait for the beep.
If you have respect for people, you will respect.
I said, if any other words come out of your mouth, I'd hang up on you. And I'm a man of my word.
Any questions? What's also funny is this is just reminding me, growing up, my dad was a paint contractor and he would have me answer the phone when I was like 8, 9, 10. And I would answer the phone, I would say the whole intro, and then I would say, this is Promise, how may I help you? And they always thought that I was saying Thomas, and they would say, Thomas, what a sweet young man working for your dad. And it was so upsetting to me growing up that people kept thinking I was Thomas the boy because I'm like, I'm Promise, I'm a girl. I don't want you calling me this. I go by she, her. I didn't know how to say that at the time, but that was the exact feeling.
That's because the stuff just showed up a couple days ago.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And now thanks to these changes that are becoming more and more common, that's happening to people less and less that it would really and truly impact. I was a kid and it was still annoying because people were getting it wrong, understandably so. They thought I said a different name, whatever, so on and so forth. It's not that big of a deal. But I think that mostly just proved that George was not going to answer any of our questions. Honestly,
no, she was a big problem.
From the get-go.
I'm sorry again, George. I'm sorry, ma'am, that you're like, I'm older than you and I've managed to figure this out. I don't know what your excuse is beyond the fact that you're comforting that's the thing. I was going to say you're comfortable in your bigotry, but I don't think you're comfortable in your bigotry. I think you are being made uncomfortable by the fact that people are pointing out your bigotry and your ignorance and your assumptions and your expectation that the world stays static in 1952, even though you're not that old. You probably watched Mad Men and longed for the old days or whatever else. You You couldn't even get around to defending your weak ass God. Why does your God keep sending us people like you whose brains are so broken that they can't even get past whether or not it's okay to be considered of someone enough to ask their pronouns? Gosh, that's a flawed premise. That's a flawed premise. Leviticus 1:9 specifically says you must wash the legs and inner part of the animal with water. Then the priest will bring all these parts to the altar to be offered as a burnt offering, a sweet smelling gift to the Lord. That is absolutely a sacrifice that is specifically said that God appreciates the smell. If you'd like to, I can give you the Hebrew words and go look them up. If you want, we could bring in a biblical expert since we have several of them on staff. I don't qualify, Promise doesn't qualify, and yet we still know vastly more than you, not only perhaps about what the Bible says, but about how to defend it. Because when Promise asks the questions of me, I'm still able to put on that hat. It makes me feel gross and I want to take a shower after the show. But like I said, generally speaking, I can defend Christianity better than almost anyone who calls in. Why? Because I was actually studying seriously to be a minister. I was in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and a lot of other times as well, mission trips. I was there for the Lottie Moon offerings. I was there for the Royal Ambassadors. I was there for youth group. I was there for mission trips. I was in Camp Windermere, Lake of the Ozarks, getting preached at for summer camp. I've read the Bible multiple times through, still don't have anything close to an expertise, and yet I will run circles around you because your brain is so poisoned by your ignorance and bigotry and the narrow stuff that you were indoctrinated into that you missed the point. The second you think that this isn't a blood cult with blood magic sacrifices, you have denied that the entire reason that God came down and took human form to sacrifice himself to serve as a loophole for rules that he's in charge of, which is the question Promise was trying to get to. Who made these rules? God did. Why does God have to do it that way? Why can't God change the rules? Why is your God so weak that he can't just forgive people without killing shit, but we can't get there? Because your brain has been so poisoned, it knows to throw up roadblocks. Warning, warning, these people know what they're talking about. Warning, warning, don't go near there. Warning, warning, Jesus will fail like he does every fucking time. I have no fear of you or your God. If I thought your God could give me so much as a hangnail, I'd convert, but he can't. He's weak. He does not exist. That is as weak as possible. Anyway, we got other callers.
Bravo to all of that. Let's chat with Sean. Sean says there's a logical
we still were going back to Will.
Oh, that's right. Okay, Sean, you'll be next then. So everybody else, hang
Sorry,
tight.
Sean.
Let's see if Will can hear us or if we can hear them, more importantly. Hey, Will, you are on the Sunday show with Promise and Matt.
Hi. Thanks for taking the second call. I heard you were going to Sean. I'm like, wait. So,
no, that was Matt. Matt remembered. I completely forgot. So thank Matt.
I'm the one that's likely to forget most of the time. So I'm glad it worked out. How you doing, Will? How can we help?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I've grown up as a Christian ever since I can remember. As I got older, I did get into quite a bit of trouble and kind of didn't follow as much of the community steps, and kind of learned to have a relationship with God privately, almost as a therapy to kind of talk myself through things to overcome. But I always considered myself a Christian. And I've been married. Our 9-year anniversary is coming up, and we have a son. But my wife is atheist.
Congrats.
And we've always been really good about respecting each other and what our beliefs are. So we don't really get too much into conversation. She doesn't make fun of me, and I don't make fun of her. It's just, we don't really talk about it. It's just a mutual respect. And we don't have a problem with communication. I just feel like I'm almost a little too nervous to bring it up to her because I don't want her feeling like I'm judging her in our relationship. So I thought this would be a great outlet to be able to, to get more information on her side, because I'm kind of in a weird spot with Christianity. Like I said, my relationship with God has become very private and very personal.
and almost like I said, a therapy mechanism to be able to talk myself through things and upkeep. You know, when you say God, it's a little easier than saying I. You know, so.
Sure.
I want more information is all, you know, and because I believe she's a very good person, and I don't think she needs God or prayer to help her make the way better decisions she ever did, way more than I ever did as a kid and even now. And she's a great mother, and she was very kind and even said one time, since we moved into a smaller town, that if I wanted to, I could bring my son to church. And that's where I kind of wanted to talk to you guys, because I don't know if I want to do that or not, you know? Kind of a weird question.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd ask that question, but it's a real question, because my son, you know, I can't tell you if he believes in God or not. He's only 6. So, but you know, he does seem like he's got a heart, and he does seem to have morals of his own and knows what's right and wrong. I just, you know, I mean, I grew up with it, so I don't know. I'm
Right.
kind of,
Well,
yeah.
there's a couple places we could go with this. Number one, I'm going to make sure you know that after this call, whenever you have time, you should check out recoveringfromreligion.org. They are amazing to talk to about all of this, and there's zero pressure. Like, they're not going to try to deconvert you or anything like that. They don't have an agenda other than to help you feel better about where you're at with your beliefs. So I highly recommend that as an ongoing resource, because I'm not a professional. Matt's not a professional. We're professional yappers. Well, Matt's more than that, but right now we're showing up here and just having honest conversation. So, you know, I kind of want to ask if you have a specific question to ask us, but I still want to throw out a couple other things. I think it's really cool that you are consciously acknowledging that the choice to take your kid to church could have I assume you're weighing the consequences, because I assume you're aware that it could be a negative thing. You don't know. You haven't figured it out yet. Because I assume if you thought there was nothing, that it was all 100% positive, you would have just started taking him to church already. So I think it's really cool that you're actually consciously putting effort into what goes behind that decision. I also think it would be really cool. Like, I love that you're wanting to talk to other atheists too, but I think it would be really cool in the future to ask your wife, not in a religion, like, not to be like, let's compare beliefs, but in a like, hey, so I think so highly of you about this thing. You're so good at this. What do you think it is that helps you with that? And that's probably going to answer a lot of your questions. Just some curiosity toward how it sounds like you really respect how she lives her life, and she must have some things that she finds meaning and purpose in and all of that. So I think you probably have some amazing questions that you could ask her that aren't loaded and aren't going to make her feel defensive of her beliefs, because you could approach with curiosity. I guess I do want to start with, do you have a main question? Like, what would your question be if you had to call in and ask like a specific question?
Kind of, I really want to know if it's not too much to ask, like what yours and Matt experience was, you know, stepping off, and because I can't imagine it was like an awakening for you guys. Like, obviously facts build up, things start to make more sense. You have more conversations with other people, like I am right now, and I'm just kind of I'm wondering, like, that kind of feeling, like, is it something? It's hard to explain, because I feel like I don't want to leave the idea, because I guess, like you said, indoctrination of having this idea that you'd be disrespecting God, and that's outside of the church and the community and the prayers and the Sundays and everything. This is just what it's done to me for a one-on-one, and you know, I don't know if I want to lose that entirely. You know, like because
I
it
was
does give
fighting
me
that.
comfort, and it does some strength. Yeah.
Yeah, I was fighting it. I always say that I did not want to become an atheist, and I became one despite my best efforts. And at first, it felt like before it happened, it felt like it was going to be the worst thing that had ever happened to me. And I can now confidently say it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me. I was finally able to access so many more helpful life skills and emotional tools, and you know, I stopped using this one thing to answer all these questions, and instead was able to approach the world with curiosity and with putting what is true as the priority instead of like, I have to hold on to this thing. And life feels so much better now that I don't feel like I am stuck to a certain belief just because I decided I'm stuck to it. Now, my loyalty is just to what is true. That's it. I want to know what's true or not. And that's so much more freeing. I have had way cooler experiences. I have also been through terrible things as an atheist. I have been through really, really sad things. I still experience grief all the time, but now I actually feel more empowered to feel it. Because I also find so much more value in all the good, all the moments of joy, all of the amazing people in my life. I don't take them for granted because I don't think I'm going to see them again someday. I think this is what I have here and now, and I do the best I can with what I know I have. And so I'm not trying to sell you atheism because I don't think it's not atheism alone. Atheism was the ticket to free me from the things that was blocking me from all the new things that I now have in my life. Because I was filling in the blank with this dogma instead of actually learning how to trust myself and my own ability to examine the world around me and figure out what I think is true or not. So all that's not really that helpful, but all that to say, I fought it with everything,
no, it's nice
and I'm really glad.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad. There was a moment for me. What happened is I was fighting it. I was terrified. I was in a very, very, very dark place, and I was like, you know what? Do you care about what is true or not? And that was the deciding factor for me. And I just felt like I was intellectually jumping off the deep end, and then I went for it, and it wasn't so scary anymore. But I'll let Matt answer.
In many ways, Will, congrats. I mean, you're asking questions, you're reaching out, you care about your wife, you care about your kid. I might be the wrong person to even comment on this because I know me. I could not be in the relationship you're in, especially from your wife's position. And so kudos to you guys for finding a way to make that work, because for me, it's not just a matter of I think relationships need to be about respect and honesty. And if I can't respect somebody's beliefs and the process by which they come to them, it's going to diminish my ability to respect some aspect of the person, not all, but some of them. And I absolutely, from your perspective, I couldn't possibly worship a God, even if I knew it to be real, if that God was going to deprive me of the person I loved more than everyone for eternity, someone who was good and loving, just because they don't believe like I believe. And maybe your views about what happens after eternity is different. But you're talking about it, and the language that you're using is, you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to, like, I don't think you said give this up, but something along those lines. And to me, it sounds like,
I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just, on your point, when to be more clear when I say that, it's just a feeling, like, because that's why I'm really wanting to talk about it, because I feel like I'm kind of already there, where I put all the responsibility on myself. Everything that I have is because of me, and what I've been able to do, and my family was able to, my wife and son were able to help me get through. And I did pray, but it was like I never put so much faith into it that I thought it would be answered. It was more of just being heard when you're, and I don't know if it's just my position, or I got friends that are kind of like this, but we feel like it's kind of hard to be emotional or express ourselves, or to be able to say, it's been rough to anybody, because it's just more difficult. You feel like there's a lot of judgment. So when I get a chance to pray, it's more of just become now anyway, a relief of just letting things out, being able to being heard, not expecting an answer, not expecting something to change in my life, because that is all completely up to me. And I understand that, and to the point where I've benefited greatly. We have a home, I have a great job, we got money, we got, things have really, been great because of our hard work. It's just, that's
I think you said the thing.
I don't really want to let go. That's kind of how I mean, because it feels like therapy to really be able to
Your phone, there's some kind of wind on your phone or whatever. I think you said what I was getting ready to suggest when you said you think you might already be there. The language that you're using isn't the language of someone who actually believes in a God or a religion. It's the language of someone who at once believed to some extent and is now struggling with the notion of, I don't think I believe this anymore, but I'm not sure that I'm comfortable acknowledging that. And when it comes to belief, it's not a matter of choice. You are either convinced that God is real or you're not. And what you might be convinced of is not so much that God is real, but there is comfort and benefit in acting as if you believe that God is real. And well, once again, we just raised a ton of money for Recovering from Religion. I would definitely recommend reaching out to recoveringfromreligion.org and Psychotherapy Project. Like Promise was saying, neither of us is qualified to figure it out, but we can help. I mean, I've done this for a long time, and I would say I'd look into Recovering from Religion. I'd look into the Psychotherapy Project, but also it sounds like you guys are doing really good. And the only thing that I have the slightest little problem with is you came to us to talk, and I feel like, and I could be completely wrong, I feel like you're wanting us to say, yeah, go talk to your wife about this. Let her know exactly where you are. She's going to be supportive. If she's been with you this long while you guys don't agree on something as key as a God, then she should be able to continue to support you as you struggle with things, as you try to figure out what's real, what's worth believing, where you are, where you're going to land, what are you going to risk, who are you going to lose? Because for a lot of people, when they find their way out of religion, it is an incredibly difficult grieving process because it can feel like you've now lost connection with everything and everyone you've ever known. And the great thing for you is you definitely haven't, because you got your wife. And you probably have other people and other friends. And what you may find is that between finding a community that is maybe not an atheist community, maybe not even a secular community, but like a skeptical rationalist community or some side project, hobby community, book club, whatever, it takes your mind off of the religious aspects and lets you just go. There's nothing wrong with trying to see how long you can go without praying. If you find that it's too painful and you have to go pray again, you can pray. You can pray whenever you want. It's like people used to say, well, they took prayer out of schools. You can't take prayer out of schools. Every time a test hits the table, somebody's fucking praying. You can't take it. What they took out was organized government-led prayer out of school, which they have to, and they needed to, because not everybody there believes the same thing and needs the government telling them how to pray. And you don't need permission from any of us to explore any of this. I'd say trust your wife and reach out to experts and cut yourself some slack. You don't have to know everything or understand everything right now. You are going through it, and it's never the same. There are people who struggle with this for years, and there are people who find, for me, it was easy. It wasn't quite a day, but it was after a long period of time looking into it, and I just went, wow, I'm definitely not a Christian. Is there some other God? How do I explore this? And that's what led me to like studying philosophy and things like that. But everything, like, I never had a single moment's anxiety. It was like things were starting to feel right in many ways for the first time. And my experience is not necessarily typical. There's a woman called Greta Christina who wrote a book about coming out as an atheist and talking about it. And she interviewed, I think, 400 atheists or so. And lots of them had difficult times, but only like one or two or so out of the 400 actually regretted that they had changed. And even then, it's still not a choice. You're either convinced or you're not. You're either going to play along or you're going to decide, hey, I'd rather be me than playing whoever God or these people want me to be.
Like, it gives a lot to think about. I mean, I never thought I would be put in a position like this where I had to had to think about it, about actually leaving, but I didn't think it'd actually affect me until my wife started bringing up some stuff. But
well, take it in and think about it, and give yourself permission to bounce around, to be confused, and to trust your partner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll add this last thing. One of the most relieving feelings I ever had was the first time I ever went to somebody very close to me, and I said, I don't think I believe any of this anymore. And this is somebody who was a believer. And their response had nothing to do with the relief. I just felt so good that somebody that knew me now, like I felt more honest. It was like, I don't know if you've heard the story of the emperor's new clothes when the kid is like, but he's not wearing any clothes. And it's like this moment of like, oh, finally I have permission. Like, I don't feel like I'm hiding in my own brain anymore from something that I don't even think is actually there. So I think it'll be a nice step for you when you do feel like you can really process some of this stuff externally with somebody that knows you.
I can say that I can agree with
Sorry.
Promise. I think there's genuinely a moment, and if our experience is anything like anybody else's, and if it is, you can throw a 1-up in chat or a $1 super chat or whatever else. I remember there's lots of things I don't remember. I remember explicitly exactly where I was the first time I said the words, I think I'm kind of agnostic. Because saying it out loud to my best friend who was driving us home from work, we were working together, and we were driving home from work, and I said, hey man, I think I'm kind of agnostic. And he said, cool. And we kept driving. But I will remember that interaction, and that's decades ago now. Probably forever. It's the public profession that is freeing. And it's you giving yourself permission to say something that you might have been afraid to say out loud or even to yourself. And you'll know when it's the right time to do it.
I'm definitely, genuinely looking forward to opening up to my wife about it. I know she's been kind of tiptoeing around it, but
it sounds like you both have been really respectful of each other's space, and I think that's really cool. That I would assume in a lot of ways that's what's made you guys trust each other's journey to where she was even trusting you to take the kid to church, which that would take a lot for me as an atheist, to trust my partner in doing that. And you're, not wanting to infringe on her. So I think you're in a great position to have cool conversations, and definitely check out Recovering from Religion. Can't say that enough.
And if I can give one piece of unsolicited advice just to consider, there's no way in hell I would let any partner of mine take a 6-year-old to church. There is nothing that they are going to learn there that can't wait for them to be old enough and mature enough to do it. I get it. I was in Sunday school too, and you're going to do what you're comfortable with. My parents, I walked down the aisle at the age of 5 and accepted Jesus into my heart, and I was in church from then on, and I did not regret it at all. It helped get me to where I am today. But I also think that that's absolutely indoctrination. And if God is real, and the justification for God is real, it can wait till you're an adult.
Yeah, like anything else, to make their own decisions. That's kind of where I
Like
started with the
circumcision.
conversation, was that I don't know what my son believes in because he's only 6, but he does seem to have a good heart. And that was just kind of where I was struggling most with, which is, I don't know if I want to bring him to church. And you guys are making really good points. The same reasons why I stopped going to church for a while, were those exact reasons. It's a little odd, and it's easy to catch sometimes on the indoctrination. But I didn't know if introducing him to something that did help me and kind of is still helping me now, whether it's not the same practice or not, was a good idea. But I think I should focus more on what the last point was talking to my wife, and that, not that I was exactly afraid, but just a little nervous to kind of open up and say that I don't I don't know if I have as much faith into all of it, or just what
Chat
it
is giving you
exactly.
mad props, Will. Chat
Yeah,
is gassing you up right now and being supportive. And by all means, call back sometime. Let us know if things
yeah,
change
for
or where
sure.
you landed or where you moved to.
And
Like,
also
not
just
location.
Okay.
one last note.
Yeah, I will.
I think that you still have so much you can teach your son from those things. That, like, there's nothing wrong with teaching. Like, hey, I've found that sitting and having a moment of gratitude, focusing on something I'm grateful for, is a really helpful tool in life. Or I've found that sitting and having a moment of reflection and kind of having a conversation with myself really helps me to express myself better sometimes. Like, there's nothing wrong with those, because it sounds like you have already intellectually removed the God from those moments, and you can do that for him verbally. Like, you can still communicate these rituals or processes or whatever it looks like for you to your son without bringing in some like supernatural belief to it, when he's a child anyways, and maybe even believes in Santa. So, you can actually give him concrete things that are real, like, and that actually work. Like, let's sit and have a moment of gratitude. What's 3 things you're grateful for? You can model for him these things that have helped you. And it sounds like you already know it was really yourself behind it. So amazing that you're able to give yourself credit for that. I think that you're going to be able to teach your son a lot, and I wish you and your family the best, Will. Thanks so much for calling us today.
Hey, thank you. You guys have a nice day.
Call back. Bye. That was lovely. That made up for, what was the Catholic guy?
Who cares?
Ugh.
No, it's great getting those sorts of things.
Yeah, I agree.
And honestly, if he winds up a theist till the day he dies, I'm not overly concerned about Will, because he's at least, honestly challenging things and dealing with stuff as they come up and open to conversation and better evidence. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted.
No, I was just going to ask, do you want to chat to the one you just mentioned in Discord?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. Let's bring on Paul. Hey, Paul, you are live on the Sunday show with Promise and Matt. What are you calling in to talk with us about today?
Well, you guys have been talking about a lot, so there's a lot to talk about.
Let's pick one thing.
Called, we were listening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I was just saying, let's pick one thing.
Okay, yeah. The one thing that started is, I think, not a lot of people are great at debating or articulating things, and that doesn't necessarily mean that God's not real.
Correct.
I would agree with that.
Did we suggest otherwise?
So the thoughts that come to my mind are the experiences that I've had where I've interacted with God, and I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to share some stories here. I can share one. When my brother died, I was 17 years old, and we grew up in a way where we were drinking and partying and doing things we shouldn't. I started that when I was 14. And the week before he died, he stopped me right in the middle. I was just down in a Mickey's Big Mouth, and he grabbed my beer out of my hand. He stopped it. And I knew my brother loved me and cared about me, but he had never articulated it in a way that he did right then. He grabbed me and he said, "You know what? I don't know what I'd do without you. Don't live your life the way I've lived my life," because he was always getting in fights and he was doing drugs that he shouldn't do. And he said all these really meaningful things to me that they still mean so much to me. And a week later, he died in a car accident with 2 other kids from our neighborhood. My brother was 2 years older than me. And for years and years and years, I wondered, how did my brother know he was going to die? Because he purposely came and told me that and gave me that blessing before he left us. And it wasn't until
did he hold on?
Oh, go ahead.
Paul, first of all, I'm so sorry for your loss, but I just need clarification. Did your brother tell you that he knew he was going to die? We missed a part.
He didn't say he knew he was going to die, but he talked to me in a way like he was saying goodbye. Like he was basically saying, "Don't live your life the way I lived my life. I don't know what I would do without you."
Is there any chance that he knew he was
just had this? Oh, go ahead.
So, okay. So he didn't explicitly say that he knew he was going to die. Was
Oh,
he
no,
aware that
he didn't explicitly say that, but he behaved in a way that it was like a gift that he spoke to me in that way, because that wasn't a normal way that we would speak to each other.
Yeah, I would say that you are so lucky. That's amazing. There's some loved ones in my life where I would have loved to have had a final moment with them like that, but they didn't know they were going to die. So that's cool that you were lucky enough. But I would say I don't see any sign of a God having been involved in that. I'm very confused how you reached that conclusion, because like I just pointed out, most people don't get that moment. So I'm not seeing the work of a God.
I agree.
Right. So how did you determine?
I can give my point of why Paul, I think God was involved in that.
Can I? Okay. Yeah. Let's get there. I'd love to know how you figured out that a God was involved. But I had another like pinpoint question for it. Now I've lost it. Yeah, we'll let you do that one. Sorry. I should be taking notes. Yeah. If you can tell us that, and then I'll come up with what my other question was.
Okay. So I was 17 at the time. Years later, I started going to church when I was in my 30s, and I began studying and learning about God. And I finally came to a point where I accepted that I believe this is true. And then, much like the last caller, it was hard for me to get myself out of the way. But once I actually got myself out of the way and tried to hear God and learn who he was and be in a relationship with him, it was like he spoke to me and said, your brother didn't know he was going to die. I did, and I gave you that gift. It was through a personal relationship that people talk about having, and that's how it plays out, and that's how it played out for me.
Can I be totally honest about how this sounds to me, Paul?
I would love sounds to me. That's the alternative.
So, yeah, I was speaking colloquially, but okay, so is part of the story that your mother had just passed away? Is that what you said at the beginning? Am I making that up?
No, my brother.
Okay, so your brother is the only one. So there was nothing that had happened. So it was just before. Okay, got it. I thought I misunderstood. I thought you were saying this all happened right after your mom died. Okay, scratch that. So this story happened. You're sitting there. Your brother says this thing out of the blue. Then he passes away. Okay, so for me, how this sounds is it sounds like this was a really sad thing that happened in your life. You lost your brother way too soon. I'm so sorry for your loss. And it also sounds like he was potentially living a somewhat reckless life, or he was is that what you were saying? He was doing all kinds of stuff.
We all were living a reckless life. Yes.
Okay. And was this your older brother or your little brother?
My older brother. He was 2 years older than me.
Yeah. So your older brother is looking out for you, and he's having a moment of reflection or something and saying to you like, oh my God, don't live like this. Like he's realizing like this is not a great way that we're living, and he's worried about you, like most of us older siblings tend to be towards our younger siblings. And then coincidentally happens to pass away not long after that conversation, to the point that it makes that conversation stand out even more in your mind than it ever would have. It may not have even stood out in your mind if he had not passed away. So to me, this just seems like coincidental. Like the timing just was chance, and that you're so lucky that you got that. Because like I said, there's millions of people who also are Christians and love the Lord, and they don't have these moments. They don't get this thing right before somebody passes away unexpectedly. And then what it sounds like to me is like you hadn't reached the conclusion yet that God was involved in you hearing that from your brothers. Sounds like you then became a Christian and started filtering everything through that worldview. And maybe even then, this memory comes back even stronger, and who knows how accurately you're remembering it, but you've now assigned a lot more meaning to it than you already did, understandably so, when your brother had passed. So now you've doubled down on this meaning to make yourself, feel some sort of comfort about this tragedy that happened in your life. So to me, it sounds like one of the most human, normal, natural, sad stories, but I still don't see any sign of a God in it.
Yeah.
At all.
How do you tell the difference between God actually sent you a message and your brain thinks God sent you a message because that's how you cope with the trauma? How do you tell the difference between those?
Well, I would say this would be the difference. And fast forward another few years, I have been engaging with God. I'm in a Bible study. One of the kids there was 16 years old, and he had an issue with his heart that was unrepairable without surgery. And the kid believed in God. He went to his peers and had prayers, and we all prayed. And literally the day before the surgery, he himself went to the doctor and said, "Hey, I feel like God healed me. I don't think I need the surgery." And the doctor said, "No, that's impossible. This will not be healed without surgery." He said, "But I need you to check me one more time." He got checked, and it was gone.
How do you know it was God?
It snowballed from there. Like he didn't need surgery.
Nothing.
The issue with his heart
Paul,
was gone.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
We can't snowball until we establish some connection. I've had triple bypass. Some doctors make mistaken diagnosis. Some things go into remission. Some things get cured, and we don't know how. So when I asked you how you knew it was God giving you this message and not just your mind, you went on to a completely different scenario that you also can't demonstrate is God. You can't just stack up 23 things that you think are God but can't demonstrate it and pretend that now you have 23 times the evidence. What you have is 23 times the mystery.
Well, yeah, and you guys are the biggest experts, it sounds like to me. You're both very educated, highly intelligent. There's no, and you've articulated it very well, there's no way to explain and prove that God exists. So without that, all we have is how we experience him. So if we can explain things to just a coincidence, but if my brother and me have that experience, and then this person has this experience with a doctor, and then I'm like, wow, God has these chances of healing you. And then 2 weeks later from that, I go talk to my neighbor, and he says, "Man, I just got this bad news. My son just came down with a kidney problem."
Okay, Paul, I gotta pause you. I'm not interested in any more stories.
You gotta hammer
here's my question. Here's my question for you, because I used to have all these stories myself. I had so many, and it was my life. And I was surrounded by people that had all these stories. And then I went to a school where we were like responsible for going out and praying for people and making more of these stories to come to church and share. So I've had all of these stories. My question for you is, if we can explain these things naturally, then why are we leaping to supernatural explanations?
We're not leaping there. I'm just trying to establish things that don't just happen for no reason, and they happen to be
how do you know that they don't just happen for no reason?
Well, because most people aren't telling you, "Hey, I had a heart problem and then it just went away." Or I needed dialysis.
Which to me is a perfect indicator of some random chance thing happening.
Okay.
You said this was about...
If everybody that prayed experienced a healing, then that might be worth talking about. But people experience healings at the same rate as chance. Some actually are worse off once they find out they've been prayed for, which is a whole nother thing. But
yeah, there was a study by the Templeton Foundation where they specifically tested intercessory prayer with a whole bunch of people. And one group was prayed for, one group wasn't. And of the people that were prayed for, some of them didn't know they were being prayed for, and some of them did. And the ones who were being prayed for and knew they were being prayed for did worse, which doesn't really make sense as a control group. But you said this is all about experience and how we experience him. And yet, I don't know how you can know that you have experienced him. I used to think I had experienced him, and now I see that I had no reason to conclude that I experienced him, and he hasn't corrected this. Why isn't God making it clear that we're experiencing him?
Well, I feel like he is to me.
Okay, well, I used to think he was to me, and then when
go ahead.
I used to think he was, he definitely was to me as well. And now I understand the nature of evidence and how we can connect those things, and that no. And yet when I don't have good reason to think that I was experiencing him. And so far in the 20 plus years I've stopped actively trying to be a minister and have been engaged in these conversations, I keep asking people over and over and over and over again. As a matter of fact, you just said a moment ago, there's no way to demonstrate this, and yet you still believe it. Why would you believe something that you can't demonstrate as true?
Well, it's because the Bible, if you read the Bible, and it sounds like you have, it's a faith-based thing. It's not a proof-based thing. We haven't dug up Noah's Ark, and everybody goes, "Oh, Noah's Ark's real. Now I'm going to believe." It's not that. That's not how it works.
Paul,
God is presenting this to us, and He's saying that if you believe it, confess it with your mouth.
I know you believe that.
Not everyone's going to believe it.
Paul.
Not everyone is.
Hey, Paul. I know you believe that God's presenting us to us, but I have no evidence for that. And so you want to say it's faith-based. Is it possible for me to believe?
It is.
Hang on, listen. Yeah. Is it possible for me to believe that Jesus is God as a matter of faith?
Is it possible for you to believe it? Yes.
Okay. Is it possible for me to believe that Jesus didn't exist and some other God is real based on faith?
100%.
Is it possible for me to believe that white people are better than brown people as a matter of faith?
Yep.
Is it possible for me to believe brown people are better than white people based on faith?
Yes.
If it's possible for me to believe two mutually exclusive, contradictory positions based on faith, then that is a concrete demonstration that faith is not a reliable path to truth. And if faith is not a reliable path to truth, anyone saying that we should believe the Bible based on faith is saying we should believe the Bible based on a non-reliable method that is not a demonstrable path to truth. That's called gullibility. Faith is the excuse people give when they don't have a good reason. If you have a good reason, you don't say anything about faith. I don't have faith about science. I have confidence that's supported by evidence. Why would I believe anything in the Bible without supporting evidence, especially when it gets things wrong?
Well, it does. And so for that matter, we can't really believe in anything. Like, I don't know that my wife's not going to cheat on me, but
that's not true.
She's not.
No, Paul, that's not only not an answer to my question. That's fundamentally false. I believe all kinds of things, and I believe them with justification. I believe that if I hold up this bag and let go, it will fall to the table. And I just confirmed that belief was rational and supported by evidence. What you shifted from whether or not you can believe to whether or not you can be absolutely certain. I don't think you can be absolutely certain about anything. But this was about...
I guess I'm not saying I think I'm absolutely certain, but from everything that I've read and experienced concerning God, I believe. And this is a perfect example. In the Bible,
but you believe on faith, right?
Going to believe. And so you
believe
guys
on faith.
Don't believe. And I do. Can I ask you a question?
You believe on faith. You believe on faith, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you want to ask me?
So just suppose, I'm going to ask it as a hypothetical question. And versus heaven, there is a heaven and there isn't a heaven. From your perspective, there's no heaven, there's no God. From somebody else's perspective, there is a heaven and there is a God. And so why? I know you guys have invested a lot of time and effort and energy into convincing people that what they believe in is incorrect. But what if you're incorrect?
Nope.
Why would you talk somebody out of heaven?
We're not trying to convince them they're wrong. We're trying to get them to demonstrate that they are correct. Because if there is a heaven, if there is a God, we want to know.
But if there's no way to prove it and somebody believes it anyway,
if there's no way to prove it, then nobody should believe it. That is the very definition of an irrational belief. And if you run around believing things that are irrational to believe, you ruin your chance for finding the truth. If you think Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light, and something else, or life, and something else actually is, then you stop looking. Irrational belief is the problem. That's what I'm opposed to. If God is real and heaven is real and your path to understanding this is real, I want to know it because that's important. But if it's not, I want to expose it because it is harming countless people by leading them to beliefs and to donate money and to vote and to support things and to marginalize other people, all on a lie. That's why it matters. The truth matters.
Well, the closest anyone can get to explaining it with science is to explain how we can see. And also, you remember the 2 satellites that
I can
we
see
put up in the
because
60s?
photons are detected by the back of my eyeballs.
Sure. Yeah, but how
we
the
know how we can
actually
see.
functions. If you talk to somebody who
The eyeball
understands
actually
how
functions
the eye
with
works,
rods and cones that detect different types of light that then send those signals to the brain, which constructs a model of reality.
Sure.
We know how this works.
Well, I'm not arguing whether it's right or wrong. I'm saying this is the closest evidence that we can come up with scientifically. And the other thing for me, is you remember the 2
To
satellites
falsely
we
claim
put
that
up
we
in the
don't know how
60s
eyes
before it
work?
left. How our eye works. If you talk to somebody who is a scientist and explains how our eyeballs work,
I have.
it is so complex.
You can call and talk to one, I think, tonight.
Okay, Paul, I don't know who's on tonight, but we have scientists on the show regularly. I have sat on the stage with one of the world's most preeminent biologists living in history, and even though he's a transphobe that I don't talk to anymore, he knows and has done programs and has educated people, including me, in my presence, on the great details about the eye and how the eye has evolved in many different times, and there's many different types of eye. We don't recognize design by complexity. We recognize design by contrasting it with that which occurs naturally, and eyes occur naturally.
So is he saying that it evolved from not seeing at all to seeing, or is it saying that it's seen many different ways and it's changed over the time?
So the evolution of the eyeball, which we can't observe directly in our species, but we can see it in different forms elsewhere. All you need is a light-sensitive cell, which, by the way, your skin is light-sensitive, just not in that extent. And over time, you get more and more of those cells, and eventually they begin to cup and form around in order to focus the light. This is, we've discussed this countless times. This is, what does the structure of the eye have to do with whether or not there's a God? It evolved, just like everything else about us.
Well, I would say if you were to try and create an eyeball, do you think you could do it?
Paul, what could that possibly prove?
That it takes somebody that's bigger than me and you and anyone else on this planet to make an eyeball.
No, you're wrong,
Like,
Paul.
it doesn't
mean it takes you're wrong, Paul. It doesn't mean it takes a somebody. I cannot combine 2 strands of DNA, and I cannot take hydrogen atoms and oxygen atoms and combine them here in my hands to produce water. That's chemistry. That's physics. That's how it works. It's not a person doing it.
So again, you can explain away, and I can't prove it, but that doesn't mean it's not real. And there's another
Correct,
scientist.
Paul. We're right back to literally, Paul. I'm going to stop you, Paul. I'm going to stop you, Paul, because we're right back to exactly what you said when you first called in, which we agreed with. The fact that somebody can't articulate themselves doesn't mean that God is not real. The fact that would you stop talking? I'm still talking. The fact that I can't make an eyeball.
I was agreeing with you.
I don't need you to agree. I need you to listen, because you got a lot to learn. The fact that I can't make an eye doesn't mean that the eye had to be created by a God, does it?
Well, it wasn't directly at you making the eye, actually, but
the fact that no fucking human being can construct an eye does not mean that it required a God, does it?
Well, it makes sense that there's one.
Never mind, Paul. You're now in a dishonest realm, and you will not answer my question. No, you're absolutely in dishonest realm. Stop trying to talk over me. It's never fucking going to happen. You've shifted. Okay. You tried to say that just because, you can explain this doesn't mean God didn't do it. You're correct. I can't prove to you that God didn't do it. It's up to you to prove that it did. That's where the burden of proof rests. And whether or not any human can make it doesn't in any way demonstrate that a God was required, which means you still have all your room, all your evidence, all your requirement to prove in front of you, and you've already admitted you can't do it, and you don't think anybody else can. So let's clear this up for somebody who thinks they can.
Okay. So what does that mean?
Well, you don't have any way to prove God, and you don't have any way to evidently to stop making fallacious arguments and shifting the burden of proof. So maybe we should just go off and think about it some more.
I'm not even arguing. I'm just saying how I see things.
Well, they're
with your
not
eyes.
convincing, and I think
Okay.
that the most honest answer would be that you just believe it because you want to. And if that's where you're at, that's where you're at. I don't think that's a
Well,
good reason to believe something.
yeah,
I think
and
it's a scary reason
that's what the
for the
Bible
reasons
actually
that
says
for the
for us
reasons
to
that
do.
Paul, why are you in? Okay, I'm
sorry.
gonna take a note from Matt,
I'm
and
sorry.
we're gonna move on to our next caller because we've got several other people
Okay.
waiting, and I don't think you're interested in what we had to say anyway. So, thanks, Paul. Talk to you another time. Sorry, I don't feel like getting interrupted again, forgetting what I was gonna ask, and then trying to figure that out again because we have other theists on the line. But before that, do we want to have Arden share the schedule and announcements and all of that? The voice
she's
of
up for it.
God, if she can. Maybe she can.
Let's do it after the next caller.
Okay. We can take, maybe we'll talk to Sean now. Sean says there's
Good.
a logical way to understand faith and theology in general. Would love to hear it. Hey, Sean,
Hey,
you are
you guys
live
hear
on
me
the.
all right?
Yep, you're live on the Sunday Show with Promise and Matt. So you have a logical way to understand faith. Do you want to explain that to us?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to say I actually really appreciate what you guys do here in general. I think it's important because I think if people aren't able to introspect or question or even, contradict what they believe in, what their faith is, and it's shattered there, then their faith is extremely weak to begin with. I think it's very important to be able to criticize the things you believe. That's what strengthens it. But yeah, I think there's a logical way.
I think it's important to question the things you believe so that you can make sure they're true or not. I don't think it's a good looking at it like an exercise, like let me build this muscle of let me see how long I can believe this, like if I'm being tortured, if I can still continue believing it. I don't necessarily vibe with that, but if that's what's getting you to think that what we're doing is good, whatever helps you sleep at night. But I would love to hear your logical way to understand faith. Cool.
No, you shouldn't, try to torture yourself. You should see it, be logical about it, and adapt, change it around, understand it in a deeper manner. Absolutely. And I call myself a Christian just because that's the way I was raised. I know I've had a lot of theological conversations with others in my life, and they'll say I'm a deist or even an atheist sometimes, but I question myself and what religion really was at a very young level. Even when I was just like 9 or 10 years old, the first thought was, how did God come to be? I mean, he's been around for infinity, but what created God? And it just led into this loophole of me questioning it. So my faith grew over experience and just living life and having hardships and kind of evaluating the situation. Faith. I'm also a scientist myself. I'm a geologist of all things.
I was going to ask you what Matt just asked. Can you define faith for us?
Sure, yeah. My definition of faith would be believing in something bigger than yourself, but something you can't necessarily prove empirically. Would that kind of resound?
It's not faith if it's not bigger than you?
I'm sorry. I'm just getting over COVID, so if I can't hear very well, my ears are still a bit plugged. I apologize if I make you repeat yourself. Could you say that again?
Sorry, red alert here. So it doesn't count as faith unless it's something bigger than yourself?
Yeah, even if it's a concept larger than yourself. I'm not saying, in a literal sense. I'm saying if you have faith in something, just if you have faith in humanity, you're believing in something larger than one's own self, your own self.
I'm trying to figure out,
I should say.
I'm trying to understand your definition of faith, and you said that it was believing something in bigger than yourself that you can't prove. So if you believe in something that's not bigger than yourself that you can't prove, is that not also faith?
Right. Yeah. I think if I'm understanding correctly, I said bigger than your
I'm
self-interest or
would it be
ego.
faith? Would it be faith if I believe in something that's not bigger than myself, but I can't prove it? Is that still faith? Yes or no?
Could you provide an example for that?
If I believe it's raining outside and I don't have evidence for it, is that faith?
In a way, sure. You could have faith that it's raining outside. In a way, I don't. That would be kind of
so your definition of making your definition of making it something bigger than yourself, that part of the definition is irrelevant. According to you, faith is believing something you can't prove.
In a sense, but it's something that
why
I guess
why would anybody why would you do that? Why would you do that?
What would I do? What? Sorry.
Why would anybody believe something that they don't have evidential warrant for?
Right. So the same reason, say with the last caller, I know Promise, beautiful name by the way, but you were structuring your sentences, especially in the beginning, and whenever he was going through his tragic story, instead of saying, this is what you said, but you stood away from the word but and you used and it was polite. And I believe that was something you were trying to be polite. Why would you do that? Because you thought of something bigger than yourself. You thought of his feelings. You thought of, something that not necessarily helps or aids in you. It doesn't do anything for yourself, but you did it anyway.
I'm going to be honest. It wasn't a conscious decision. That's just how I talk.
Are you suggesting that
fair
Promise responding to somebody's trauma was an exercise of faith?
In a way, it's believing in something,
In a way. I need some fucking definition I can use, not vagaries and in a way. Is there any position that one couldn't accept merely on faith without evidence?
Repeat that. Sorry. Is there any position that somebody could not accept based on faith? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
No.
Okay, which means that I could accept either of two contradictory positions based on faith, right?
Correct. Yes.
Which means faith is not a reliable path to truth, and nobody should rely on it to make decisions about what they should believe.
Absolutely.
If they care about truth.
Right. Correct.
Okay. So you called in to say.
Yeah.
I thought you called in to defend faith, and now you're agreeing with me that faith is a bad thing.
No, I'm not saying you should stick to faith despite not being able to prove it. Faith should be a fluid thing as you experience life and as truth comes to being, as reality sets in. It should be something that you adapt.
What about somebody who says they're taking it on faith that they should hate an entire people group?
Right, and then that's where the logic part comes in. Logically, that doesn't make sense.
I'm going to get really pissed if you keep saying yes to our objections and then spin in a different direction. So let's try a different tact. If somebody could both accept that you are brilliant and wonderful on faith and that you are stupid and evil on faith, then they definitely should not be using faith to evaluate your character, right?
Correct, but I'm trying to say that
correct, but there's no fucking but there, Sean. There's no fucking but. There's no but. It's a yes or no.
You're arguing for blind faith. I'm trying to say
no, I'm not.
Is not a blind
you dishonest person.
I'm not trying to be
talking about faith.
I'm
talking about faith as you described it, as we agreed on. If you can reach two mutually exclusive, contradictory positions by using the same method, then that method is by definition unreliable as a path to truth. That is the definition of faith that you've given and agreed to, that it is not a reliable path to truth, right?
Perhaps I have a hard time explaining or describing faith. How would you describe faith?
Sean, no, it doesn't matter how we would. And here's the thing, that you're now trying to bring something else in because you threw something out there about how, well, it's not just blind faith, which we're not talking about blind faith. We're talking about just faith as you defined it. And now you're saying, well, it shouldn't just be faith. Now we have to bring some logic in. So now we don't need the faith at all then. It becomes obsolete because it led us to a point where we needed something else to begin with. So faith shouldn't come into play whatsoever. Why wouldn't?
No, they don't.
We just demonstrated how they absolutely don't.
If I have a logical, evidence-based justification for it, what fucking use could I possibly have for faith? And if I have faith and I don't have logical, then I got nothing. Logic is the be all end all. Faith is irrelevant. If I have two tools, one of them's a hammer and one of them's a screwdriver, and I need to turn a screw, the hammer is fucking useless for that.
Correct. Yeah, that's.
So why are you trying to, why, you know, I get it. I like Reese's peanut butter, at least the old ones. You got your chocolate in my peanut butter. You got your peanut butter on my chocolate. Why are you getting faith on my reason? It's not, doesn't taste good. You're dumping shit into the reason pool.
Okay, so let me ask, what about, how about something like faith in humanity or integrity or concepts of those similar sense?
That's just talking about using that word in a, like, I don't know, I guess colloquially, where we're not really defining faith and we're using faith more as trust or hope in something. And even then, it's a vague term. I don't even like those terms. So there's nothing in my life that I have faith about. I trust different things. I maybe make some risky decisions sometimes based off of little bits of evidence. But I don't have, there's nothing I have faith about.
Yep. I have confidence in things.
I would say
proportion confidence to the evidence.
In the past, I have believed things without a good reason. That's the closest I've come to faith, because I think those are the same things.
Okay. Do you have humanity or integrity? Do you believe in doing good things for others?
I believe in treating
good
others
things for others
well.
because I have evidence that doing good things for others makes the world better, and I benefit from that as well. That's not faith. That is confidence that is based on evidence, based on science, based on game theory.
So you wouldn't do something good or positive for somebody else unless it benefited you. Is that a correct assumption?
I don't know, but it always does. If for no other reason, then it will make me feel good. But I do good things for people all the time.
It'll make you feel good, and you have faith that it will benefit you.
No, I don't have faith that it'll make me feel good. I have confidence based on past evidence. I know the sorts of things that make me feel good. I know the sorts of things that make the world a better place.
Great. And then I think that you're on a roll by making the world a better place. So why would you do that?
Because I live in the fucking world and I benefit from it being a better place. Why would I encourage scholarships? Let me finish. Why would I encourage scholarships for people? So that maybe one of them might cure cancer before I fucking die from it. Maybe somebody I love will benefit from it. Maybe somebody will hate will benefit from it. Maybe the world will just be a better place. I live and operate in the world. You can justify things that appear to be altruistic through purely selfish means if you want to.
I agree. And so you think that education, investing in education could potentially lead someone to curing cancer and doing better for the world, right?
I think that is a more likely path. I think that is a, are you going to ask me a question? Let me answer it or not? I think that is a more likely path than not doing it. Oh my God. Never mind. I'm done.
Sean, I think you're just using the word faith as trust or like taking a risk on something. And you're using the word faith differently, I've heard throughout this conversation, to where it starts meaning different things. First, it's like a reason for something. Now it's just like, well, you think it could be a good thing. Yeah, based off of X, Y, and Z. Like, we can give you reasons for the thoughts that we have. Or there's probably some things I would have to tell you, yeah, I don't really have a good reason for that. Or maybe it's a past trauma of mine that makes me keep repeating this behavior, or who knows what it is. But I don't know how many times to tell you that you're never going to find something I have faith in. It is not part of my vocabulary. It is not a method that I use to do anything in my life.
And that could be just a different interpretation. Perhaps when I say faith, maybe I am meaning things like hope and belief in positive
no. You don't get to fucking define faith at the beginning of this without any hint that it's about hope, that we asked you that to start the whole fucking conversation. And now that you've been shown that what you defined is awful, now you want to respin it as hope. I have fucking hope. And my hope, like my confidence, is warranted by the evidence that it is well placed. What I'm not going to do is advocate for false hope. Now, you say that logic is in faith, or logic is useful in faith and theology. How does logic get you to theology?
I think that you could simply use logic to come up with the reason, the whole point. I think the meaning of life can be found out through
I'm sorry,
logic.
I didn't ask you what you think. I asked you to do it. Show me how logic can lead to theology.
Okay, well then I would ask you, what is the meaning of life? I'll guide you along it, because if I just tell you, that's pointless. I could tell you anything.
I have no reason to think there is any external meaning to life. My life has whatever meaning I give it. If you think there's an external meaning to life, prove it.
Yeah, I think meaning is
I think that
subjective, and we each create our own meaning.
I agree with that. I would say that.
Then are you going to answer my question instead of popping up distractions that we agree about? Show me how you can use logic to arrive at theology.
Okay, logically, humanity in its own are we special in any way? We have some unique attribute that allows us, that gives us a point, right? That's the meaning of life. So what makes
No. From the universe's perspective, we are not special, nor does it give a shit about us. And in any way that we are special, it's special to us, just like a cheetah is special to itself for who it is, and that it's faster than us at this other thing. But in no way does your assertion, which is false, that we have something special that separates us, does that make that the meaning of life? You have to demonstrate. You literally just agreed with us that there is no intrinsic meaning of life, and now you're trying to say that there is, and it's because we're special when we're not.
Well,
we're special to us.
I was trying to say that the meaning of life, just like Thomas said, is something that each individual comes to, and I'm understanding.
Wait, hold on. Let me clarify my position.
Explain how I reached mine.
Meaning is a human construct. There are some people who go their whole lives and never sit and think, like, what is the meaning of life? They just live their lives. So not everybody actually has meaning in life.
Sean, I need you to do what I asked and stop deflecting into fucking meaning of life and other stuff. Show me the logical path that leads to theology. Go.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to show you how
you're failing to do. That's what I'm telling you. You are failing to do. Show me. You made the statements right here in the call screener thing. Stop fucking avoiding it. Stop going into nonsense about us being special, meaning life. Show me how you logically get to theology. Try again.
All right. Logically, I got to the point that I think altruism and giving from oneself to assist another became a theology, and that is because it's a unique aspect that we can do. And that
Goodbye, Sean. You want me to tell you why I'm dropping you? I didn't ask you to tell me how you got to the point about altruism. I asked you to describe how logic gets to theology, not how your flawed thinking and your flawed assumptions, but how logic gets to theology, which is what you claimed. Can you do that or not?
I'm not sure how I can do that in one word, because you're not really giving me a chance.
Oh, I'm going to mute you now and you're going to listen. And when I bring you back, you're going to change your fucking attitude or you're done. We've given you a lot more than one word. You fucking liar. You keep dodging the question I'm asking. I keep pointing out where you go wrong. I have had it up to here with your vagaries and dancing and meaning and altruism and everything else. And now you're going to whine like a little baby because I interrupted you when you failed to fucking do it for the 4th or 5th time. I'm going to bring you back. And what you're going to do is one of two things. You will either, nobody ever said in one word, you dishonest shit. You will either demonstrate a path that anybody could use to get logic to lead them to support theology, or you will be hung up on. Go.
Could you give me a format in which to answer that so that I may follow the track you're looking for?
Nope. Goodbye. It is not my fault that after 4 attempts, you repeatedly failed and you don't know how to make the case for the thing that you called in to make the case for.
I'm still lost on how faith is supposed to be there's a logical way to faith, and yet what we determined is that his solution to the problems caused by faith is logic. So why didn't we just start with logic and not bring in faith at all? Like, none of that made any sense. Anyways, that was...
It's incredibly irritating because Sean doesn't seem to understand that theology is the study of God. And generally speaking, we're speaking about that in a supernatural sense. My position is, not only is there no good reason to think that anything supernatural exists, but there's no way to test or confirm that the supernatural exists. Otherwise, we'd have already done it. Or at least when I say there's no way, I don't mean tomorrow somebody could find a way to demonstrate supernatural, but it hasn't happened yet. And so there is not a logically viable path supported by evidence that would lead someone to theology. You can't have a logically sound path to an untestable proposition. But Sean doesn't know that, which is why Sean gives fuzzy definitions of faith. And when they get called out and exposed, he wants to change it to, well, I have hope. Cool. If you'd have called in and asked us, hey, do you guys hope? Yeah, I have lots of hope. I have confidence. I have trust. I have hope. I have preferences. I have suspicions. I have wishes. I have beliefs. I have knowledge. What I don't have is faith. I have an understanding of skepticism, epistemology, and evidence, and it is flawed, but I don't have faith because I came to understand that faith is not a reliable path to truth, which Sean both admits and acknowledges, and then still tries to rehabilitate faith. I'm desperately tired of people trying to rehabilitate words and try to, language is our plaything. We get to say and do whatever we want. But if you're muddying the waters, if you're adding confusion, if you're referring to spirituality, when you're talking about psychology, you're muddying the waters. You're bringing a word with too much baggage in. I know that it's a convenient thing. You can't think of a better word. I'll just use this one. I know. We've had that conversation. It's the same thing with faith. I don't know how to explain to you why I think what I think. I'll just say it's faith. Well, that's a convenient way of never having to demonstrate it, but it also is a really convenient way. Let me borrow Hitchens. That which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without any evidence. There's no reason for us to care. Oh, that's like just your opinion, bro, or dude, or whatever it is from Lebowski. I'm trying to get to show us something real. Because if in fact there is a God out there and there's some way to know it, I want to know. If there's something I can do and learn and accept that is warranted by reason and evidence that leads to an understanding of what may happen after death, if anything, what is consciousness? Is there a soul? Because right now, not only, I am not convinced that a God exists, but that doesn't mean I'm convinced there are no gods. But I am, in fact, convinced there's no such thing as a soul. We would have to undo that first by demonstrating that there is a soul, because I can make an incredibly strong case that there's not a soul. Anyway.
I think instead of doing the schedule, you guys should just take the next caller. That the events are going to be posted. The only one we're missing is Chewed Gum, and TACIS isn't up yet, but you guys can go to the channel, hit the notification bell. Go ahead and take the next caller so we can get as much time out of it as possible.
Awesome. Promise?
Should we? Yeah, do you want to chat with this? We have, it looks like just this one theist.
Theist.
Yeah, great. Hey Jack, you are live on the Sunday show with Promise and Matt. Just a heads up, we've got a hard cutoff time at the 15-minute mark. So if the conversation goes well, then we'll probably just tell you to call back next week to finish it if we need to, but maybe we can wrap it up in 15 minutes.
Sounds good to me, guys. Thank you both for having me on.
Yeah, it says
So
here you want to
you're welcome.
explain why God seems to be hiding. Let's hear it.
Yes, I would love to. And first, I appreciate the opportunity that y'all are creating this space that we can actually have this discussion. I think that's generally fruitful, so I appreciate that time. Now, I am a Christian myself, but I think I take a slightly different view than most Christians do when it comes to the problem of divine hiddenness. I don't know if either of you two are familiar with Dale Allison's work on the resurrection, but he essentially goes through all the arguments for and against the resurrection. It's this like beautiful capstone work about Jesus, and he deals with the history of it and with other experiences that people have with resurrections in other religions and compares them. And he basically arrives at the conclusion that we don't have enough information, right? And so the Christian apologists, when they make their case, are making a case that's far too strong to be supported by the available evidence, but also that some of the arguments made by skeptics are also equally unsupported. And so in my time as a Christian, I have actually arrived at similar conclusions. It seems to me, and I'm sure that y'all will disagree, and I'm totally happy with that, and I love that. But it seems to me that when we approach the claims from Christianity or other faiths from a historical point of view or a philosophical or a scientific point of view, it seems that they always kind of end up 50-50, that you could go either way. Essentially, I don't think that the evidence is overly compelling for either theism or atheism or deism or any other option you want to throw in there.
Can I pause for a second?
Sorry for taking up so much time here. Sorry about that.
No, I was going to let you continue. I just want to pause for a second. So you think when we evaluate scientific evidence, it's 50-50 between whether or not there's a God?
Rightly understood, yes. And I think when it comes to dealing with
how do we tell what's rightly understood?
I mean, I suppose that's an excellent question. I tend to mean a lot of religious folks will tend to do improper science. And I think that you may agree with me on that. Especially
but what I'm saying is, I don't know how it can be 50-50 when, would we agree that God is by definition supernatural in this context?
Yes. Yes.
What ability does science have to confirm anything supernatural?
Yeah, so I was going to go into this a little bit. I think science on its own kind of requires laborers from other disciplines, such as philosophers, because anytime you're dealing with some kind of scientific evidence for or against a creator of the universe, you're having to pull in some philosophical concepts. So science on its own, I actually don't think can say one way or the other.
My question was, what ability does science have to evaluate the supernatural?
I suppose I perhaps misspoke then. I don't think science on its own can evaluate the supernatural.
Okay. If God is supernatural and science can't evaluate the supernatural, then how can it be possible that science comes down 50-50 on the supernatural?
I think I perhaps misspoke. I think that science in conjunction with other...
So
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
When it comes to history, what path does history have, or what can history confirm anything about the supernatural?
No, and so this is kind of my point.
What about philosophically?
Sorry?
What about philosophically? Can that confirm anything about the supernatural?
No, but that's kind of my point.
Okay, so
I don't think we can
here's the
confirm
thing.
one way or the other.
You said when evaluating the historical, philosophical, and scientific evidence, you think it comes down 50-50. And yet you just acknowledged that each of those cannot confirm anything about the supernatural. And so how can any of them be 50-50?
Perhaps we're using different definitions for the same words. So when I speak of something confirming, I mean to believe that or to know that it is the case, either with relative certainty or absolute certainty. I don't think any of those disciplines can lead us to the conclusion that God does exist or God does not exist. I think
That's
that
not what
an
I
honest
asked.
evaluation of the evidence.
That's not what I asked,
Okay,
and nor
maybe
is that
perhaps I
required.
misunderstood.
That's not what I asked, and there's no requirement. The burden of proof is on the people who are claiming that God exists. It's not up to anybody. It's not a requirement that anybody demonstrate that God exists. The God proposition could be entirely unfalsifiable, and many would argue that a good chunk of them are. But if science, philosophy, and history cannot confirm anything supernatural, and the God you're talking about is supernatural, then none of them can offer any credence towards those because they don't have any ability to investigate the supernatural or confirm anything about supernatural.
Okay, so yes, I see perhaps where we're maybe talking past each other.
Okay,
I
cool.
think that
Let's correct
the
it then.
ability to sorry about that.
No, I was saying, yeah, awesome. Let's see if we can correct that then.
Yes, wonderful. I don't want to strawman your position at all or misunderstand you because that's just unproductive. What perhaps I misspoke. What I originally meant to get at is that these disciplines can provide some evidence for or reason to believe in a God hypothesis, if you will, but none of them can confirm it. And I think that reason to believe something is different than having confirmation of that proposition. Can we at least agree on that final statement?
If we can change it, because I don't think those disciplines provide evidence for the supernatural. I think those disciplines provide evidence that people who are predisposed to attribute things to the supernatural might view as consistent with their view of the supernatural.
Sure. I actually fully agree with that last statement of yours as well.
Awesome. So
how
do we tell the difference? How do we tell, like, here's a piece of data. Like, for example, somebody had glaucoma and now it's gone. There are people who will think that is a miraculous healing of supernatural origin. Do we have any way to tell if it was of actually supernatural origin? Because I know that people are going to think it is. The question is, how do we tell if they're right?
I don't think we can.
Okay. If we can't, then wouldn't it be irrational for people to think they can?
Yes. In that instance, yes. But that's not what I'm referring to.
Okay. Fill us in. We're in agreement.
Okay. Yeah, I think you and I are probably actually very fundamentally different in our conclusions, but I think perhaps similar in some of our understanding of religious individualism and how people perhaps sometimes falsely perceive things as supernatural when they're not. What I'm trying to get at
is I tell you honestly, Jack, I know we've only got like 8 minutes left, and so I'm going to let you get to stuff, but this is the most optimistic I have been in living memory that we've agreed enough on the found. I'm not even remotely fucking kidding that we agree enough on the foundation surrounding epistemology that if in fact you have a good reason for God, I think you're the one that's most likely to convince me. So the floor is yours.
Oh, well, that is a high bar to set, Matt, but I appreciate it.
I'm not expecting you to cross it, but I'm incredibly optimistic that it's the best chance we're going to get.
Tread carefully.
But go ahead. I don't want to keep talking over you.
I appreciate. No, y'all are doing just fine. I've been running my mouth. I think to perhaps get to the point that I meant to make originally, and I perhaps unintentionally evaded. I think that when you evaluate some of the classic philosophical arguments for and against God, and again, I understand we'll probably disagree on our interpretations of these, but I think that forms of the teleological and contingency arguments do provide some reason to believe in God. Whereas on the other hand, I do think that, say, the problem of suffering and the problem of evil do provide some reasonable reasons to disbelief in the triune God. And just from my personal stance, when I have evaluated those arguments, it kind of comes up in the middle. To put it very shortly, same thing has happened in my own life when I evaluate the historicity of the resurrection and the reliability of the Bible. and other scriptures from around the world. And so what I think tends to happen is that God gives us just enough evidence to believe. That is my proposition. God gives us just enough evidence to believe, but there is no overwhelming amount of evidence for his existence. And I think at least in that latter statement, you and I might be able to find some agreement. I think that the reason people believe in a God, no matter what they'll tell you about it being just based purely on logic or reason, the reason why people believe in a God is because they are either predisposed to, or they were raised that way, or they perhaps find some true meaning in it. I don't think that inherently makes it false. And I think, again, you and I might agree on that.
Yeah.
Can I ask
think
real
that
quick,
there is-
just
Go
a
ahead,
little
Franz.
clarifier? Yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah.
ask, why are we only examining the option of Christianity or atheism? Why are we not including like all the other religious claims? Maybe you guys already got to that and I missed it. Sorry, it's almost midnight my time, so I'm losing my mind a little bit. But I'm just confused why it was like
Oh my
between Christian God and then like not believing at all. Like, why are we not also taking into account a bunch of other God claims? Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
Absolutely. And that's a question that's not asked enough. And I just came at it this way because I myself am a Christian. And so I kind of just was evaluating my claim against what I would suppose is the biggest claim in opposition to my own worldview, which is that no God exists. But yes, there are, millions of other religious faiths. And even within the umbrella of Christianity, there's tens of thousands of different ways you could view God. Like I myself, if I may, I am a Christian, but I don't believe in the inerrancy of Scripture, nor do I believe in the existence of hell. And so, like, I myself am like an unorthodox Christian. But even then, we kind of evaluate. I think the biggest claim is whether or not there is a creator that exists. And then, of course, when I evaluate the historicity of the resurrection, I have been led to believe that it's reasonable to conclude it, and then I sort of combine that with my own personal experience, and
So
I
it's
feel
kind of
compelled to believe it.
like fancy Pascal's wager, but you don't really bet or lose much either way.
I suppose so. And I can't say I'm the biggest fan of Pascal's wager, but I think that it actually rightly understood, because it seems like most Christians and non-Christians alike seem to misunderstand what Blaise Pascal was trying to actually say in that. But I think rightly understood,
he was basically saying that belief isn't a choice. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Pascal was basically arguing for the exclusivity of a particular version of Christianity versus atheism, and was saying it's in your best interest because Pascal knew that belief wasn't voluntary. And so he's like, if you do not believe, you should act like you believe in the hopes that you ultimately convince yourself. So he was basically advocating for indoctrination because it's better than the consequences, or self-indoctrination. I'm wondering, because you had already acknowledged that it would be irrational to believe, do you view your own Christianity as irrational?
I do not. I think that both the positions of belief in a creator and the lack of a belief in a creator, which is, I would call atheism more than the hard stance that there is no creator. I think either way you go, I think it's reasonable to arrive at your conclusions. Okay.
Now we've completely lost each other, and we found the part of epistemology where I don't know how to even phrase it. I do not see how, at the same time, in the same place with the same information, it can be rational for two people to believe mutually exclusive, contradictory positions. Doesn't that mean by definition that at best, neither of them could have warrant?
I absolutely see where you're getting at. I think I perhaps disagree, because I think that a lot of the reasons why we even believe things is not solely based on the evidence provided. Because like you said, you can...
But now you're talking about why we do. Now you're talking about, I'm sorry, we're almost out of time. Now you're talking about why we do believe, and I'm talking about why we should believe, what would warrant belief. I fully admit tons of people believe stuff and have incredible confidence for really bad reasons. That's kind of what I'm getting to.
Right, but like if
Right.
I believe that it's raining outside and Matt doesn't, we're gonna find out. Like those can't be both true at the same time.
Well, I'm in Austin.
I wonder,
I'm
Jack,
kidding.
I really like I really like talking to you. I wonder if you would be willing to call back next Sunday. We're both going to be hosting again, and we could start with your call off on this exact point. I don't know if you'd be
Sure
if
thing.
you have you can.
Thanks a bunch, Jack. And if
I
not,
should be
call me back
available.
another time. I'd love to talk to you, but we have hit the wall at 4:00 and we've got to turn the show off. Jack gets color of, I don't know, 2026 so far. And I look forward to talking to you again. But we've got to go. We've run out of time.
Yeah, I've got my notes here
Would
from
you
where we
briefly
left off
remind
on
me
this.
what time it is next week?
Sure. The Sunday show starts at 1 p.m. Central Time, which I think is GMT -5 right now.
1 p.m. Central. Okay, I appreciate you both. Thank you for your time in this conversation.
Awesome. Thanks so
Jack.
much.
See you later.
Bye, Jack.
Yep.
That is all we have time for
Look at
today. I
that.
think we're getting bumped over to, are we getting bumped over to Cus I Wanna or something?
I think so.
Calling it now, but yes.
Calling it now.
Calling it now.
Yes.
And don't forget to tune back in a couple hours. Well, just go watch Calling It Now, and then they'll bump you back over to the Sunday Show After Dark. I promise.
Oops, that's not what's supposed to happen.
Hello.
Our
There we go.
producer is still tired from the fundraiser. Thank you guys so much. And thank you for all the support for Recovering from Religion. I can't say it enough. Jimmy's amazing, worked his ass off. We give him shit, but he did great stuff. So did Arden. So did all of you for donating.
Yes.
We will see you again later. Go away. Shoot. The
Bye,
show's over.
everybody. Thanks, guys. Except for Stay for calling it now. There's no music. This is terrible.